giving thanks. I want to just give thanks to, first of all, God for putting me in this position to be the mayor of this great town, and also for my beautiful family who I get joy and energy from, and also the members of this town council who works diligently, and our staff also to make this town great as well. And all of our staff members, again, you know, emergency responders and everyone that makes this town great. So what I'd like to do right now is go around real quick to our council members and just tell us something that you're thankful for. We'll start with Ms. Stallings.
I am thankful for my family and this town and this community and all that you all are to make this community as good as it is. We are the peak of good living, and it's because of all of you. Thank you.
I'm thankful that during this kind of tough COVID time, I feel like Apex in general has been resilient and reacted in a way that I think comports ourselves well when times get back to normal.
Good evening, everyone. I'm thankful for my faith and my family, and thankful for all of you. I wouldn't be serving in the seat if it hadn't been for voters. So I just think that it's just an honor. And with my day job, I traveled to a lot of places in North Carolina pre-COVID. And there's nothing like Wayne County, but there's also nothing like Wake County and Apex. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
I definitely want to thank my family and the community. And the community includes all of you. It includes all of our staff members, all of the Apex area, because this is really a great area to live in. And I think we're all lucky to be here and lucky to have all of you here as well.
Thank you. Yes, sir, Councilman.
Really, I just am thinking of my kids and their health and how they're, persevering through this time. My family, my parents. I got some grandparents still with us that are also very fortunate that they're in a situation where they're able to work through the times that we're in. And I'm thankful for my colleagues here on the council and how we've been able to work together over this past year to, I think, make some progress and help mitigate the trouble that we're facing. And I'm very thankful that we have a group of people here who are working together to do what's best for the town. And I hope we all get through this and we continue to work together and make some more progress here.
All good words. Thank you very much. And as we approach Thanksgiving, it's one of my favorite times of the year to get to eat a lot. And so I hope you enjoy that as well. So let's stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance together. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Tonight we're going to start with a presentation. I'm going to come down and do this. First thing I want to say is, producer, you hear me? Is obviously we got something for a police officer tonight because the house is packed with police, which is a good thing. We're safe. I do want to say this with this presentation. It means so much to me because it tells a story of what policing should be about, and that's compassionate policing. We have many men and women on our police department here in Apex and across the nation that sacrifice their life and to serve us. It's also important that we recognize that the men and women of our community, although they may be different, they may be suffering, they may be challenged with certain things, it's important that we put people first. This particular case tonight, I want to start with the first story, and this story can be told by 4 different people, myself and the police officer, the gentleman who received help on the first incident, and also his daughter. This gentleman is a friend of mine, and his life was saved because of the good work of a police officer. This gentleman who's a friend of mine, he's addicted to drugs. He's been battling this for many years. But he's still my friend. And it's important for people to understand that everybody in this community means something. Somebody's son, he's somebody's father, he's a brother. Everybody's a member of this community, and they should be treated as such with dignity and respect. So what I would like to do right now is talk about the story. I was actually leaving my office, and I was headed home. I was traveling on South Salem Street, and I had approached Center Street, and I look over to my left near the depot, and I see all these emergency responders. And I just look over and say, well, we're in good shape. Our guys are on the scene, and they're taking care of business. And I head home, and I look down on my phone, and there were 3 text messages from my friend's wife. And the first 2 messages read, this guy's name just died in front of the depot. The 3rd text message said, they saved him. So as I received more information about how did he get saved, I quickly learned that it was a police officer that came on the scene and joined in with this guy's daughter. And that police officer is going to be commended tonight for a job well done. Also through that, I also learned that this police officer saved another life months prior. He understands the music of staying alive. He knows how to give compressions really well. So what I'd like to do right now is have Officer Steve LaFemina and his beautiful wife and his son to come up, please. As I said before, it's very important that we give honor to whom honor is due. And what I want to do is I want to read this award of commendation for Officer LaFemina, and we'll go from there. So on November 3rd, 2020, at about 4:09 p.m., Officer Steve LaFemina checked in with officers responding to a possible code blue behind 300 North Salem Street, in which the subject was unresponsive, with no pulse and not breathing. Officer LaFemina was the first officer on the scene and quickly jumped into action. He first identified from the subject's daughter that the subject had overdosed. Right away, Officer LaFemina administered naloxone, then went directly into performing CPR on the subject. Officer LaFemina's quick action set the stage for the firemen and EMS personnel to also jump into action, with the end result being that the individual's life was saved. If Officer LaFemina had not taken such quick and decisive actions, the outcome may not have been a positive one. Again, I go back to, and this friend of mine, he called me today, and he just got released from rehab, and he has a long road to go. But he wanted me to share with you that he's thankful for what you did for him and his family. In a separate situation on Saturday, February 15, 2020, around 10:45 p.m., there's a lot to scream about, of course. Officer LaFemina responded to a report of an unresponsive person. He started CPR on a resident who was successfully resuscitated and transported to a local medical facility. For his handling each emergency with uncompromised competence and integrity, and for providing such a meaningful service to the citizens of Apex, Officer Steve LaFemina is awarded this commendation for exemplifying devotion to duty, sincerity of purpose, and genuine concern for all. We thank you for providing such significant service to the citizens of Apex. On this date, November 17, 2020, signed by the Mayor of Apex, Jacques K. Gilbert. Job well done. Thank you. Hey, you just dropped the mic on that. You don't have to speak, right? That speaks for itself. I do want to make one more recognition. I talked to our town manager about this situation with the Narcan, and he said, hey, don't forget to mention there was a lieutenant that put this program together, Lieutenant Tom Parody. Without that, we wouldn't have this program. And what you administered that day, we give honor to you as well, Lieutenant Parody. Please give him a round of applause. And last but not least, because he's in the house and we have to give honor to whom honors due. It is a special time for our town, and there's more to come with this, but since he is here, I have to recognize the Commander-in-Chief of the Apex Police Department, who's here tonight, who has just announced his retirement. And what I want to do as the mayor, publicly thank him for a job well done in his service to this community. I can't say enough to all the contributions you made. So if you would, please come up. I don't have anything for you right now. Yes, sir, but I do want the people to see you, and we thank you for everything. Your work is not, it will never go unnoticed, and we will continue to carry the baton for you as you move to your next assignment, sir.
Sir, thank you.
Okay.
You are served by some great public servants.
Yes, sir.
And work that is just phenomenal, and congratulations, well done. And I know that any of our officers would do the same thing. And Tom put this program together, as you mentioned. Thank you for recognizing it, because this is what we can do with that kind of support and that kind of training and the equipment that we have. So thank you for all of that support.
Yes, sir, Chief. All right. Give him a round of applause, please. Okay, we move now to presentation 2. Is Downtown and Small Business Development Coordinator Colleen Moraes. If you would, take us away.
So I have some lovely folks who are definitely more deserving of standing up here in front of you than I. I want to recognize Shane Reese, who is the current president of the Apex Downtown Business Association, also a small business owner in downtown Apex. And Nicholas Bryant of the Apex Gallery, who some of you know, and the newly titled president, Shannon Flaherty. They just changed titles on her at the Apex Chamber of Commerce. What I'm presenting today, although at the last council meeting on November 4th, I believe, we named November 28th a Small Business Saturday in Apex, which is a national movement through American Express to recognize the importance of small business throughout this country. And we're doing a more local, buy local, shop small campaign utilizing some fun concepts. And it is a partnership program with the Apex Chamber and the town of Apex. And I previously gave out to you some fun swag that was sent to us through this Shop Small program. So you'll see some of these, the businesses on Small Business Saturday will be giving out free tote bags. They will have posters, they will have signs, there's even stickers in your bag so that you can wear some cool swag like I do that tells everybody to shop small. And shop small, this is a one day a year, but this is a thing that we should all consider every day of the year. Obviously, especially this year, with some of the things that we've all been going through, our business community has definitely seen some changes relative to COVID that have not always been necessarily positive. And this is a way for us as a community to sort of give back and show everybody how much we love our small businesses here in Apex. Also in the bag is a poster that was created that has over 46 specials throughout Apex for that Saturday, November 28th. Some of these specials are available just in the store. Some of them are available online and in the store. And some of them are only available online. But it's a way for all of us to sort of participate on that day. And I'm going to shut up now and turn it over to my lovely colleagues here to just say some words.
Yeah. Good evening. Thank you for having us. I just want to say really quickly that, Mayor Gilbert says all the time, we can't, if we're not working together, if we're working together, we can get a lot accomplished. And since Colleen's been on board and we're housing the depot together, it's been really really awesome to see the collaboration with we've worked with the town obviously before, but having a person, to sit and we sit there and brainstorm together, and our program's going to be stronger because we're able to do it together. So we're really excited, and I also wanted to take this time to thank each and every one of you as well. You all have been nothing but supportive. Even prior to COVID, you're always so supportive of small business, but you stepped up in so many ways, and on behalf of chamber members, other businesses within the town, I just wanted to thank each and every one of you because, as you know, small business is really the heartbeat of any town and any successful town. And so going to that peak of good living, we want to be there for our businesses in our community and see them strive and thrive. So thank you all.
I think Shannon covered it, but I just want to say thank you. She really did. She does a great, how many speeches do you give? 40 a week when you're doing these ribbon cuttings? I just want to say thank you so much to this town council, to town staff, and to the wonderful people we have as part of our small business community. We're really starting to build, I believe, and especially thanks to Colleen, the connective tissue that's necessary to keep us thriving through this pandemic. So thank you so much for your support, for your creativity, and for giving us Colleen.
Nick, do you want to say?
I'm good, thanks.
Okay. So to wrap that up, for those of you who may not have a lovely printout at home of this flyer that you can see up here and that I'm holding in my hand, all you have to do is go to apexeconomicdevelopment.org, and there is a Small Business Saturday page which has a at-home version that you can peruse and look at all 46 of these specials, as well as an interactive map to help you navigate where you're going to go on Small Business Saturday. So I really encourage, I can't stress it more, shop small, shop local, shop often. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll move now to presentation number 3, North Carolina Chapter of American Planning Association. Presentation of the Marvin Collins Small Area Plan Award for the North Carolina Chapter of the American Planning Association.
So it does not appear that our presenter from the North Carolina chapter of the American Planning Association has joined, unfortunately. So I'll just say a few words about this particular award. This is a high honor in the planning field, and it was awarded to the town of Apex and our consultant, Stantec Urban Places. We have Amanda joining on Teams. She was the project manager for this effort. And Timothy in the crowd here, for the downtown master plan and parking study. And I'll just note that this particular plan has been the highlight of my career, and I think that it will be for the for the rest of my career. It was a plan done for an amazing place with a group of very special and committed people, and we're already working toward implementation. In fact, one of the major steps towards implementation is on the consent agenda this evening. So it's not something that's going to sit on the shelf. We've seen just a minute ago, the previous presentation was also related to the downtown plan. So we have several people here tonight who were part of the steering committee, and even though we don't have NCAPA joining us, if possible, I'd like to invite them to come up for a picture and to have the brochure from the plan itself.
Can I join? Can I join? I want to join this, okay.
You're on the steering committee.
What's going on?
Yeah, where do you want us?
I'm a result of this, but.
That's awesome.
Who's on the committee, right? Not just, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
You just thought, you're next.
It looks firmly planted in that seed. Let's see. 1, 2, 3. Make sure I've done it.
Thank you.
You looked at it a long time, are you sure?
All right.
You were checking your head. Just kidding. Hi, Amanda.
Bye, Amanda.
And Mayor, kind of a personal privilege. I just want to say it was an honor being the town council kind of liaison for this committee, and you guys were full of, and the consulting group as well, you guys were full of innovative, creative, exciting people to work with, and it's been my funnest thing I think I've done on the council so far is to be part of that. So, and I think the product shows. I think it's an amazing plan that I think worthy of this award, but it shows, and it's really great. So thanks for the opportunity to be a part of that.
All right, very well. Thank you for those comments. All right, we'll move right along to our consent agenda. All consent agenda items are considered routine to be enacted by one motion with the adoption of the consent agenda and without discussion. If a council member requests discussion of an item, the item may be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. And we do have one add-on consent agenda, and that is a motion to approve budget ordinance amendment number 8, which appropriates funds to reimburse Experience One homes for costs incurred in the construction of the Sweetwater Reedy Branch Greenway.
Motion approved, Gant?
Second, Dozier.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. All right. Passed unanimously. We'll move now to setting of the regular meeting agenda. And we do also have a request to move public hearing number 8 to be the first public hearing tonight. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion, Killingsworth.
I second it, Stallings.
All right, any discussion on that? All right, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. All right, that passed unanimously. We have a set agenda. All right, we'll now move to public forum. And do we have any names, Mr. Manager? Okay. All right, just a friendly reminder, you have 3 minutes, and there's a series of lights there, green, yellow, red. At red, I will have to stop you for your public comments, so please use your time wisely. All right, so I'll go ahead and open up public forum, and the first name tonight is Dr. David Barnhart. Thank you so much. Okay, you can begin. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. David Barnhart. I am a resident of Apex, and I want to discuss tonight some of the work that you'll be doing later on in discussing the transportation bond in your workshop.
If you also give us your address, please.
Oh, yes, 1003 Baranook Court in Apex.
Thank you.
Yeah. The bond workshop that you're going to be working on tonight has potential to work on multiple construction projects throughout of Apex, and I want to focus specifically on one project that is important to us, which is the Southwest Peakway Connector Project under the bond referral. Given that many on this council were not seated during the initial stages of this project, we wanted to reiterate the impact of this project and bring attention to new information that has come about since its inception. So first, this project was designed to connect the two parts of the Peakway, one above the railway and Salem Street, down to the other part that wraps around back to 55 William Street, south towards Highway 1. Originally, CSX demanded that there be either a bridge or a tunnel developed, and two project concepts were brought forth with the idea that the bridge at $10 million would be the first project to move forward. Since that time, there has been a bond in 2015 that has pushed forward $15 million towards this project that has grown. And this $15 million was allocated to not only build the bridge, but to start moving forward with the planning and development. Since 2015, the cost of this project has now ballooned to $25 million, and yet another need for a bond referendum to support this project. Additionally, federal and state funding that was supposed to come and support this project has dried up thanks to the pandemic, and no one knows when those funds will be able to come back. The problem is that since this time, there has been a number of other factors that have come this way. You have had the 55 expansion now being thrown forth by NCDOT, which before they refused. There's also been work that has already been allocated to fix the Tingen intersection by Salem Street to allow for easier thoroughfare. And therefore, with this massive cost to this one bridge that will serve maybe one or two neighbors versus all the other projects that require development throughout all of Apex, it is a very large sum of money to build a bridge for a small portion of the community. And so the request from our neighbors and from all the people who are working this is that those funds could be best allocated to much more important development projects, more infrastructure, better housing developments. Those are the things we're looking forward to, not a bridge. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, next up is Allison Gant.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Allison Gant. I live at 1006 Cuttington Court here in Apex, and I'm also a neighbor of the Whitehall Manor neighborhood. And for further disclosure, I am married to Councilman Gant. First, as an Apex resident, I believe that, I will be speaking to you tonight to voice my opposition for the funding of what we will refer to as the Peakway Bridge as a potential 2021 transportation bond issue. As an Apex resident, I believe that compared to the bridge, there are a number of more important and more impactful transportation projects that are ready to pursue. Rather than one giant overpriced bridge, you could fund a litany of projects and necessary improvements that would greatly benefit residents across the town. Very few people would characterize this bridge as the town's most important project, so I pass a bond that, depending on its size, may only cover one item. And over the years, as was previously mentioned, the projected costs for the bridge have skyrocketed, while potential state and federal funding have been depleted. Frankly, I believe it is fiscally irresponsible to prioritize this project. Second, as was also mentioned, I believe that with the proposed improvements at Salem Street and Tingen, as well as the planned widening of 55, the need for this bridge will be dramatically reduced. The bridge should be postponed until these projects have been completed, and then at that point, a more thoughtful examination of options with a detailed and accurate cost estimate should then be considered. Finally, as several current council members have emphasized the need for affordable housing in Apex, I find supporting a project that would displace an underserved community antithetical to your expressed goals. Furthermore, the land that is an on-ramp for the bridge could be utilized so much more effectively for something that could actually benefit to this community. Specifically, as a resident of Whitehall Manor, I am here to lend my support to my neighbors. Their homes and our neighborhoods face great detrimental impact from this project. We believe that a future transportation bond is critical to the town growth. However, if funding for this bridge is included in the bond, we feel obligated to campaign against it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Gant. All right, that's the end of our public forum. We'll close public forum now and move to public hearings. And yes, you have one recorded comment? 3, okay.
I think those recorded comments are for public hearing number 7.
That's what I have on my notes. Yeah. We good? Okay, all right, very well. Okay, so we'll start with public hearing number 8 as our first item tonight. Joanna Helms, Economic Development Director, presenting tonight.
Good evening. In December 2016, the Town of Apex Town Council approved an incentive policy. It's referred to as a Development Investment Grant. The objective of this grant is to encourage the location, retention, and expansion of new or existing business and industry within the Town of Apex that would create jobs and private investment. There are minimum thresholds and eligibility requirements that must be met in order for this grant to be considered. In March 2019, the Apex Town Council approved a total $78,435 grant to Project Protein based on their projected $7 million investment. Project Protein represents a bioag industry project. They proposed a facility that would house both a research and development operation as well as their company headquarters. Since that time, the project has had a few twists and turns, all internal to the company's corporate evolution. But through it all, the project has maintained its interest in locating at Cache Corporate Center. The specific location is roughly what you see there on the map outlined. And I'll just remind you that this is the boundary total. This rectangular shape is the total 121 acres of Cache Corporate Center. And then this area here outlined represents approximately the 10 acres that Project Protein represents. It's just a sketch, it's not to scale. Most recently, the project has notified us that the project investment is now approximately $9 million with the creation of 30 to 40 jobs. Therefore, the grant they are eligible for, according to our incentive policy, is now a total of $106,448. Since that represents an increase of $28,013 more than what was originally approved, we are bringing this back to you for your consideration. The Economic Development Committee recommends this grant, and I'll be happy to answer any questions at the appropriate time.
Thank you, Ms. Helms. Any questions for Director Helms? Okay. All right, I'll go ahead and open up public hearing for this item, and no one has signed up to speak tonight, so I'll close public hearing and refer it back to council for possible motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve Killingsworth.
I second it, Stallings.
All right, have a motion second. Discussion?
I mean, we have a formula that I think appropriately will scale up a little bit when we have an increase in development, which is great. So increases the value of the development. So I'm in favor.
Hearing no more discussion. All right, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. All right, that passed unanimously. Thank you. All right, move now to public hearing 1. Shelley Mayo presenting tonight.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Here we go. Public hearings 1 and 2 are actually going to be heard together. This is the annexation and proposed rezoning for Holloman Hills South. Just to give you a general idea of where it's located, here, south and west, kind of in the bottom left corner, if you will, of the town's jurisdiction. This property is located directly south of the existing approved Holloman Hills subdivision and directly to the east of the Western Wake Regional Water Reclamation Facility. It's comprised of about 10.16 acres. They are currently, sorry, these are the annexation slides. My apologies. Had a moment there. They're currently zoned Wake County R30 residential, and the proposed zoning district is medium-density residential conditional zoning. As you can see, the parcel to the west is zoned residential agricultural. Just to the north is medium-density conditional zoning on several parcels. This comprises multiple rezonings, all generally speaking the same. To the south, we have US 1, and to the north, we have Old US 1. The 2045 land use map does designate this as medium-density residential, so the proposed zoning district is consistent with the 2045 land use map. applicant conducted a neighborhood meeting on October 19th, 2020. That neighborhood meeting report is attached. The applicant is proposing specific uses. I'll read off those proposed uses. There's single family, park active, park passive, greenway, utility minor, accessory apartment, family care home, and recreation facility private. The applicant is also offering 3 buffering conditions as well. These are to adjust the required buffers for this proposed project from what the UDO typically requires. Number 1, if this subdivision is developed as a part of the Holloman Hills subdivision, then no buffer shall be provided along the northern property line adjacent to Holloman Hills. That's consistent with if they had actually been developed, if they had been in one plan set all at one time. That's very standard. Number 2, a 20-foot type B buffer shall be provided along the eastern boundary where 2 residential properties are adjacent. It's this section right here. The remaining length of the eastern boundary of the property shall be a 10-foot type B buffer. That's along through here. A 10-foot type B buffer will be provided along the southern boundary of the project, adjacent to the wastewater reclamation facility. Further down on sheet 3 of your staff report, there's a buffer analysis. We don't list that with the conditions. That's why they're separated out a little bit. The northern boundary would typically be a 10-foot type B if it was developed as a completely different subdivision and not incorporated with Holloman Hills. That is consistent with the UDO. The southern boundary would typically be a 60-foot type A buffer. It's because this property is actually a portion of the Western Wake Regional Water Reclamation Facility. However, staff feels like we can support this reduction because when the water reclamation facility was put together, extra wide buffers were actually required as a portion of this project. So there's already on the water reclamation facility side, there's a much thicker buffer than would typically be required. So there's already going to be sufficient buffering in place for this.
Do you know what that buffering is?
I don't recall the number off the top of my head, but I believe it was in the range of 80 to 100 feet. I should have written that down, I apologize.
Thank you.
The eastern boundary, typically in this little section where they're adjacent to 2 residential properties, because these are larger lots, you would typically see a 20-foot type B buffer. However, it's a very small portion of the shared property line. And let me back up. The applicant is actually proposing the 20-foot type B buffer there. What I was trying to say is this section would typically be a 20-foot type A buffer. And the applicant's proposing a 10-foot type B buffer. Staff feels comfortable with this. It is set up to be office employment and commercial in the future. However, this property currently belongs to Duke Energy. They've had discussions for years about reselling it. We don't know if or when that will happen in the future. At this time, we feel that a 10-foot type B, because of the small size of these parcels, is sufficient. If we go back to page 2 of the staff report, there are 8 single-family residential architectural conditions. Those are consistent with what was proposed for Holloman Hills South, or for Holloman Hills, and then the 2 smaller parcels that have since been added to that adjacent to it. Planning staff recommends approval of this rezoning if the following condition is added. A 100-foot riparian buffer shall be provided for all perennial streams in accordance with the requirements of UDO Section 6.1 as of August 3rd, 2020. The reason for this is because in February of 2020, the town's NPDES Phase 2 permit will expire unless it's renewed in a way that's consistent with the way we implement things now. Our ability to enforce a 100-foot riparian buffer in the Big Branch and Middle Creek watershed basins will end at that time. To mitigate this, we're requesting a zoning condition on any zoning in those 2 basins that will ensure a 100-foot buffer on all perennial streams. Otherwise, an amended subdivision or site plan could come back in, reduce those perennial stream buffers to 50 feet, and enlarge development or encroach further. Given the concerns that our residents and our council have expressed, a zoning condition is currently our best tool to make sure that we can provide that 100-foot riparian buffer on all those streams. To that end, Planning and Water Resources staff have coordinated and are requesting this riparian buffer condition on all rezoning petitions within those basins. If you have any questions, I am happy to answer them. The applicant is also here as well.
Mrs. Mayo, can you speak to, okay, let me back up. This, I believe, is the first development I've seen since I've been on here that is kind of at the end of a unimproved road. And my understanding is they're going to improve to town standards the roads within, but not necessarily Church Road all the way to the intersection. So what does the UDO say, like at a certain size, I'm guessing they have to improve it, and smaller ones do not have to, and like sidewalks, I guess, and whatever else is required. So can you speak to like what's required, and like, did you guys request that of them and that was something that was too expensive, or can you speak to that a little bit?
So at this point, there hasn't been a subdivision plan assessed, and until we see how many lots are actually being proposed, we don't really have a way of determining if this meets our TIA thresholds or not. Regular rezonings, just the regular conditional rezonings, don't come in with a transportation impact analysis. That's done at the subdivision plan if necessary.
With a certain
Planned
number
unit
of homes?
developments.
With a certain number size?
Right, exactly. There's a certain threshold that they have to meet that I'm sure Russell has memorized far better than I do. But at this point, we don't have a way of assessing whether this meets it. Odds are, on 10 acres, it won't. Okay. Considering that they're looking for single family and that they're going to be meeting the maximum densities of the medium density residential, you're looking at maybe 60 homes maximum, but a significant portion of it is actually taken up by riparian buffer here. So the odds that it will actually meet those thresholds for a TIA is very low. That said, even with a TIA, there's only so much that we can require developers to do. There are several Supreme Court cases to this effect that essentially limit what towns can require them to do. The applicant will be required to connect a road system through to Holloman Hills, which is actually going to be the better connection point. We'll be coming up and through here. And then Church Road is a state road at this point. So unless the town was willing to annex all of the properties adjacent to it and take over maintenance, I don't know that there's a lot that we can require of them. Russell is welcome to correct me if I'm wrong or speak to that if you'd like.
Yeah, there's nothing in our ordinances that we can require off-site improvements to an existing state-maintained road. In a case like this, if there was a traffic study required, we study the intersections, and that's where turn lanes, other off-site improvements come in. And we do, as part of Holloman Hills, already have improvements planned out there along New Hill Olive Chapel Road. But as far as the road itself, installing sidewalks, widening, improving existing state route off-site, there's nothing in our ordinances where we can require that.
Okay.
And technically, it's New Hill Holloman Road here. If you cross Old US 1, it becomes New Hill Olive Chapel.
Do you know whether the footprint of the Western Wake water facility is finalized like that, or could it come closer with an expansion?
There are thicker buffers through here, and this section of it is somewhat close to the edge of where that buffering is, so it probably wouldn't come any closer than this right here. There is a stream that runs through here that has some protection as well. It's possible that some additional build-out would happen. It would be very unlikely for it to happen in this section, just because it's hard to see, but this parcel is enormous. And there's far more space to the north and a little bit more to the south over here and over towards the west that you just can't see. It's a very large parcel. So let me see if, there it is.
Yeah, okay.
This whole big thing is it, and so you would be more likely to see expansion going up in this general direction or maybe down through here than coming closer.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Shelley, could you speak to what the current status is of the development status of the project to the north? And is there a possibility these two are going to come together and developed as a single site plan or something, or is it still?
So they wouldn't necessarily come together as a single site plan. What might happen, so this, you can see from the aerial here that there's a lot of dirt disturbance. So they're actually under construction at the moment. But what might happen is this might come in as Phase 2 of Holloman Hills. We've had large subdivisions before that come in with subdivision plans in phases. And Bella Casa is an excellent example of this, where there was the initial portion and then there was another subdivision. And then as the developer was able to, get control of more and more land, he added it to the same HOA. And he just did Phase 2, Phase 3, et cetera, for it, and amended the zonings to be consistent. So it's possible that it could come in that way. We don't have any information about that at the moment, so I can't say for certain one way or another. And I also don't know about any talks that the current property owner might have had with the developer. I do know that he's been very willing to make sure, the current property owner was involved in the rezonings for the Holloman Hills properties and has been very comfortable with keeping those architectural zoning conditions and everything consistent throughout. So that would be helpful.
Any more questions for Ms. Mayo? Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, should I have waited to ask for the applicant to come up?
You know the drill.
I apologize.
You know what to do.
I am actually not the applicant tonight. Alonzo Wilson, many of you guys know Alonzo already. He is actually the applicant, but as you guys know, I talk a lot. So I'm going to take it in the 9 minutes and restrict him to the 3 if that's okay with you guys. So with that, Jeff Roach, Peak Engineering and Design. I'm the engineer working on this with Alonzo, helping him through the zoning process, looking at the site plans. Mr. Gann, I'll get to your questions here in a second and answer some of the other questions that Mr. Mahaffey had and such. Hopefully I'll touch on them through this real quick. And if I haven't, please yell at me and I'll get back to them and I will answer your questions, okay? So let me open up my notes here just to make sure I don't forget anything, guys. As I just did, I introduced Alonzo. Alonzo Wilson is the developer putting this together. I also want to introduce Charles Tyner. Charles is in the back there. He is with the White Oak Foundation, which is an affordable housing provider here in Wake County. Michelle Harrison is also here in the back. She's also with White Oak Foundation. She is the housing counselor with White Oak. She is also, as I understand, on the town's affordable housing committee. So as you can see, she's very interested in what goes on here in Apex with affordable housing. The mission, and I'm not going to get too far into it. I think Mr. Tyner is here. He can come up and explain the mission if you guys have questions. I will leave that up to Mr. Tyner to take the time if he wants to do that and kind of educate you guys a little bit on that. From my standpoint tonight, I first want to thank Shelley, wherever she went, for the presentation. She touched on all the buffers, all the questions that had come up. I do want to point out a couple things. First of all, the site does meet the 2045 land use map, medium density conditional zoning. It mimics the conditions exactly with what Holloman Hills was approved with a couple years ago. That is now, as you said, under construction. The goal with this, because Alonzo did rezone Holloman Hills, is to continue the discussions for Holloman Hills South, which is our 10 acres, to become a part of that if possible. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. It depends on the developer to the north. Can this get added to the HOA to be one development? And that's why the condition for that northern buffer was as it was. We're going to do it as a separate project. We hope to combine them so that it's a seamless transition between the two different developments if that's the case, or there's a 10-foot buffer between them. So that's kind of why it is. The density, although Shelley said that this could be developed with 60 lots, it's not going to be 60 lots. We're looking more in the range of 2.5 to 3 units, which puts us somewhere in the 25. If we get 28, I'd be very surprised. But somewhere in that 25 to 28 range is what we're looking at this point. The development is very much restricted, north to south, of course. We've got the connection to Holloman Hills here, which is already stubbed to us or is under construction to stub to us. We've got the existing church road on the east, which is stubbed to us as well. We've also proposed a stub in the southeast corner of our property over to the Duke Energy land for future development. Future interconnectivity, it's just good planning. We understand that Duke is not interested in selling the property to the east of us yet, but they've been selling land, for years. Little pieces here, a couple big pieces down in Holly Springs, I think just sold. So they will do it. People continue to talk to them, but we've set up for success for this project to interconnect with them. From an overall planning standpoint, that's how we kind of approached it. The perimeter buffers, Shelley went into them. I'll be happy to answer any of the questions on those, but I'm not going to bore you with more details on it. Mr. Gant, you had asked a question about the unimproved roads coming in. Like Russell said, there's no mechanism to do that. It is a state road. And this project being 25 to 28 lots will never trigger a traffic study. The improvements are going to be in place. Holloman Hills is doing improvements on New Hill Holloman Road. They've got intersection improvements. They have an access on the Church Road. And I think, Russell, correct me if I'm wrong, I think they're doing improvements at Church Road and New Hill Holloman. Is that correct? That this project will actually take advantage of. We'll have pedestrian connectivity to the north. We'll stub to Church Road. So it will be set up for success for pedestrians as well as vehicular traffic in and out of the development. Mr. Mahaffey, I think I answered your question concerning buffers, but I got an email from you the other day while I was sitting in planning board asking about the percent impervious, percent RCA on the site. As you can see, there's this scar running north-south on the property. That's an existing Town of Apex sanitary sewer easement. Our development is pretty much staying to the east side of that sanitary sewer easement. So from that location, from this location east is where our development is. As you can see, most of it's already been cleared. It's been cleared for years with a stub street coming in, a connection to the north. We're kind of tied into as to where we're making our connections. We ran some real quick numbers from the center line of this existing sanitary sewer easement to the west boundary up against the town's property is about 3.4 acres, which puts us at about 34% right off the bat. That is land that we are not touching. It's tree canopy, it's existing stream or proposed stream buffers. It's untouched land, which will easily get us to our 35% throughout the site. Typically, we have the option to look at additional options, whether it's solar. I think there's some other conditions that can reduce that. In this case, I think the site is set up for success for a couple reasons. It's 35% on the western side of the thing. It also provides a huge buffer between us and the water reclamation facility. So it's a success that's already there. We're just going to take advantage of those trees that are already there and leave them alone. So with that, I also want to introduce one thing. I had a couple of discussions with a number of council members about affordability questions. In talking with staff and talking with Alonzo about affordability, White Oak Foundation is all about affordability. So we're going to make a commitment tonight with you guys. If it's okay, I have a short thing I can read to you guys. I like to read it into the record just so we have it. Donna's not here, but I'd be happy to have extra copies I can give to Drew so Donna doesn't have to type from me trying to mumble through the mask. But if you guys would bear with me just for a minute to read this. In support of the Town of Apex's mission to provide affordable housing, the development shall support this mission with the following condition. Prior to recordation of the first final plat for the property, the developer shall provide a donation to the Town of Apex's Affordable Housing Fund, references the fund, in the amount of $215 per dwelling unit. If at the time of the first final plat, the fund is yet to be established, the developer shall contribute said funds to a nonprofit organization participating in the development and construction of affordable housing units. The developer will work with the Town of Apex to identify a mutually acceptable nonprofit organization to receive these funds. If, at any point prior to recordation of the first final plat, the developer records with Wake County Register of Deeds an option in favor of the White Oak Foundation, Habitat for Humanity of Wake County, we all know Habitat, or any other qualifying nonprofit affordable housing provider for one or more lots within development, the donation of $215 per lot shall no longer be a requirement. For purposes of this condition, affordable housing is defined as housing that that on average is affordable to a household with an annual income no greater than 80% of the AMI for the respectively sized households in the Raleigh, North Carolina MSA as determined by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. I'm done reading. We worked with staff this afternoon to craft that language. I talked to Alonzo beforehand. We think this is a legitimate, the numbers were pulled from the Depot 499 project as well as the Heelan project. You guys can see that the White Oak Foundation is clearly involved with this project. We hope that there is the opportunity to do a couple affordable housing lots on this, but we can't commit quite yet to it. So through the zoning process, I wanted to go ahead and put that in there, that we have a condition for affordable housing. I'm hoping to build homes, but we don't know yet. So with that, I hope to get your support tonight for the project. There was one other condition that staff brought up, which is in reference to a stream buffer. I think Shelley misstated. One thing, just real quick, was the town's NPDES permit expires in February of 2022, not 2020. And I think the concern is that those buffers will go away, the 100-foot buffer on the perennial streams. We're planning to move forward with development fairly quickly on this. I don't anticipate this project falling into that mess that could be NPDES permits expiring. But we are going to follow the ordinance. I would like to follow the ordinance. I don't like putting additional conditions into our zoning so that somebody may come back in 3 years and have to try to interpret what the heck was Jeff thinking. So with that, I'd like to follow section 6.1 of the ordinance as written today as we move forward. I truly believe that the town will come up with a way, if the NPDES permit expires in February of 22, I have to believe that the town is going to come up with a way to widen the buffers to what they currently are. So with that, I have 11 seconds left. I'm going to stop talking and back up and answer any questions that you guys have. Like I said, Mr. Tyner is here to answer questions from White Oak Foundation. Alonzo, as the applicant, has a couple minutes left over. But I am here to answer any questions or get grilled, however you guys
All right,
see
any
fit.
questions for Mr. Roach?
I have a question for you, Mr. Roach.
Yes, ma'am.
I was a little bit surprised that you mentioned about the commitment to affordable housing, because on the neighborhood meeting, the question was asked directly related to, the person mentioned it as low-income housing, and then did put in subsidized in parentheses. Understand that people don't understand all the different definitions, but there was I read it as a concern, and the response was, this is not the intent of the developer. And so when I see that, then I hear you presenting that this is something that would be done, then to me, it makes me feel as though this will not be, this will not be done as part of this project, that we just go straight to, you'll make the donation. That's how I view it, that there would not be an appetite for people who need affordable housing help. That's how I interpret what was in writing in my packet.
I don't know how you interpret it. This was the discussion. The original plan was to bring it as a market-ready project, as a market-rate project, and that's still the plan, because the White Oak Foundation, if they step up and buy this, or Habitat steps up to buy this, they don't have the money to purchase 25 lots and start building. So I think what you could see is kind of a mix where you have a market-rate type development that buys 10, 15, 20 homes, and then the White Oak Foundation has the ability, with the funds that were made by selling market-rate lots, to do some affordable housing into it. The original information that we were given was that it would not be affordable, and that's what we were told. That's how we approach the neighborhood meetings. The developer has talked about it, has gotten more involved with Mr. Tyner, with the White Oak Foundation, and come to the agreement, and this is what we worked on with staff, the last couple of days. And after talking to Ms. Stallings, Brett and I talked, I've gotten, everybody, Audra and I talked about affordable housing and the concern, and that's why I went back to Alonzo and said, can we do this? So it wasn't in the original discussion at the neighborhood meeting. That's correct.
Mr. Roach?
Yes, sir.
So you mentioned in your comments that you're confident that the town's going to come up with a method to address the stream buffer issue by 2022. And I would like to point out the town has come up with a method to address the stream buffer issue, and it's to ask all of our applicants to put a rezoning condition to add that buffer in. So I guess I'm struggling with understanding the objection to that condition, and I'd like to point out to my colleagues and everyone else that this issue of the stream buffer, it's kind of bigger than this rezoning. This is the first time this has come across, and we're trying to set a policy here to address what, how can I put it, a failing of state policy that we can perhaps make up with some additional zoning conditions on our end. And it does need to be addressed, and the best I can tell, I mean, this is our plan, is to ask people as a rezone to add conditions in, and I don't know if there's a backup plan. And it could be in this site, it's not meaningful, because as Mr. Roach pointed out, development's going to press on and be done before we get here, and, might not be redeveloped for decades or whatever. But setting the precedent of the first time we ask, not doing it, and then not going down that path for other rezonings, to me, is concerning, because we do need a plan to address this, because this issue of the riparian buffers in this area is, I think, an important one.
Mr. Mahaffey, if allocated, I'd like to answer the question. Sure. I'm not against the 100-foot buffer. I never have been. As an engineer, it's my role to interpret for my clients the ordinance, and it's easier for me to point to a section of the ordinance and say, you have to do the following. So when asked to put a condition into our zoning, I kind of back up and say I don't really like conditions, because it's going to reference an ordinance that's 2 to 3 to 4 years old. I'm not opposed to putting it in there. I hope that staff, I hope the town attorney, I hope that planning and the director can come up with language that can be put into the ordinance, so when myself or another engineer or planner go to interpret that ordinance for future developments, it's right there for them in black and white, and they're not having to be asked at council for, hey guys, can you do a 100-foot buffer as part of a condition of a zoning? Well, I want it in the ordinance. I'm not against adding the language that staff has already done. I talked to Amanda, I talked to Diane beforehand. It's my own personal opinion just to have it in the ordinance versus a condition at zoning. But I will work with Shelley. I'm fine with the language. We've seen it. If Mr. Mahaffey would like it, we agree to add it to the project. Following, I think, section 6.1. Yeah. So we are okay with adding it. It's my own personal belief. It's not the project's. It's so I apologize. I was being stubborn on that. That wasn't what I meant to do.
Okay.
So I apologize.
Sounds great. Sounds like we're making progress here.
We can always make progress.
So we have more than a year to fix this. I think that is, your hope is my hope as well, that we can have some kind of solution that we don't have to necessarily ask this every time. So, I mean, hopefully in a year we can, before we lose this thing, I think that's, if it is possible, hopefully we can try to do it, at least.
If you don't mind me asking, Councilmember, when you say a solution, are you implying you're hoping for a state solution to what was done, or are you hoping there's some other solution that's not?
Yes, I have zero confidence in the state government these days, but I do think the town can come up with something ourselves that is legally justifiable.
Just remember, our power comes from those same state officials. Just keep that in mind.
And
That's where power comes from.
There's language in other ordinances that have other buffers that are above the state's 50-foot now. That's not part of their NPDES permit. So there's language out there. Maybe nobody just brought them to suit at this point, but there is language in their ordinances for other things that they're just not called buffers.
I appreciate the thought. I guess from where I am, I'd appreciate the zoning condition now, because our staff has thought about this, and this is the solution they have for now. And I would hate to not go down this direction in the hopes that something else might come up. I guess would be my preference.
Any other questions for Mr. Roach?
Just a comment. Thank you for offering those conditions. I appreciate it, because I think it's very important to our town and to our development.
And I apologize it took me so long to get it together with the developer and get the language worked out internally. So,
But you got it done. That's what's
Yeah,
important. Thank you.
unfortunately, last minute.
Thank you, sir. All right. So we'll go ahead and open up public hearing for this item. And I'd like to call up Mr. Alonzo Wilson, please.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. My name is Alonzo Wilson, and my address is 1609 White Oak Church Road. And I'd like first, if I could, to just say, when you open up, you ask the members to say what they were thankful for. What I'm thankful for is two things. One is I'm thankful just to be here tonight because of the challenges that I've had through since 2020 has come in. The second thing is I'm thankful to be standing here in a town that I grew up in and seeing where it has come from, and then to see people that's a part of the town to make it an even better place, and that have stood up to the challenge of what has been in the past and said, okay, let's look at this and we can come together as a community and make it an even better place to live. So I think that's why Apex is considered one of the #1 places to live in North Carolina, or well, in the state.
State of nation, how about that?
I'm most thankful for that because I have seen the growth and the change in Apex. So I'm proud to just even be standing here tonight before the council to even speak. Thank you for letting me share that with you.
Yes, sir.
I'm here to ask your support and the approval of what we're trying to do out there in New Hill. I thank Mr. Roach for articulating what I really want to do. My true mission is to bring affordable housing to the town of Apex, which I have been trying to do over the past few years. I'm not a developer per se, as some of the other developers around town, but I've taken this on as my mission because I am a part of the White Oak Foundation, who also has that mission along with some other ministries. My strategy, and I shared this with Mr. Roach, is that because of getting through this process, he's been very helpful. I also thank the town and particularly Shelley, that she's worked real close with me, helping me to understand that process and, me being patient to try to follow that process. I don't come in looking for any favoritism. I want to follow the process. And I think we've done that. The other thing is, I ask for your support in this, and my strategies, and I shared that with Mr. Roach, and he's kind of helped me, put those strategies together, is I want to develop this property, and then that puts me in a position where I can bring some affordable housing to the table because I've learned kind of what this development process, how it works. Once I get the entitlements, I've got exit points, and then I can still bring the White Oak Foundation to the table to accomplish the mission that we said we're going to accomplish. And I'll close by saying this. I made this statement to Shelley in one of the meetings we had some time ago. At the end of the day, it's about making money. But at the end of the day, for me, is I want to make money, I want to do good, but I want to do some good while doing good. So for me, my mission is affordable housing. So I just ask for your support and your confidence in me staying true to the mission. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, council. And I again ask for your support and approval for this as it moves forward.
Thank you, sir.
Is there any other questions?
Just a comment. When you're through. Do you have anything else you want to say? I said, I have just a comment if you're through.
And pardon me, because of what I've gone through, one of the side effects is I've lost a little bit of hearing. It should clear up, but I can only hear on this side.
I just want to say thank you. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for your mission of housing affordability. You know, a lot of our residents have communicated it's very important, and it's important to me that we offer diverse housing options for people with diverse incomes. So thank you for your willingness to be a part of that in our community. I appreciate that.
And Mr. Wilson, I just want to share too, I've known you for quite some time, growing up in this community, and I know where your heart is and what you're trying to accomplish with the mission with White Oak, and you guys do an amazing job, and I just appreciate everything you're doing.
You're quite welcome. It's been a challenge. Like I said, I'm the new kid on the block with this development stuff, but my mission is what it is.
I understand. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, council.
I'd like to call up Reverend Tyner, please.
Good evening.
Good evening.
To the mayor, to the councilmen. I'm really glad to be here to share with you. Tonight is an important night for Apex. I've been pastoring this church for 48 years. I know I don't look it. I've been pastoring White Oak Church 1621 White Oak Church Road for 48 years. I came to this community with one thing in mind I wanted to do. I wanted to make affordable housing available for any citizen who desire to have a house. I believe having a home, a house, is really important because it brings to people ownership. It brings to people, I feel good about I'm working every day and I have something to say, it's mine. We have demonstrated this, and I'll just take a few minutes. We demonstrated this. We built our first houses in Durham. We built our first houses in Durham. We built 9 homes in Durham. Then we left Durham because I have parishioners in Durham. And I said I was going to every community. We were going to every community to build some affordable houses. We sold all of those, and then we came to Apex. Lynch Street, you might not want to give us credit, but Lynch Street is a better place today because White Oak Foundation came in and purchased all the land down Lynch Street that we could possibly purchase. We built the 7 houses you see right on Lynch Street, the first ones that you see. Not only that, but we were getting ready to build the 31 houses that the Habitat built. We had already purchased the land. We had already ran the water, the sewer. We've already done the street improvements. But 2008, the bank said they're going to loan us no more money because it's bad time. So then, we had the folks from Habitat came to us and said, look, you got a good plan. You got lots already laid out. Let us purchase it from you. That's the reason you got that development down Lynch Street. What we want to do in Apex is make it a place where everybody who desire to have a place to live can have a place that they can afford. I appreciate all that you do. Now I'm going to challenge you one more chance, one more time. Now this project that we're having, you ought to be able to get enough money from Wake County, out of the homes program, the housing program, this time, because this project ought to be a project designated, tell you how I feel, for affordable housing. The only reason why Alonzo can't do it is because he can't make it affordable because of the cost. So any incentives that you can give to help make this affordable, make these homes affordable, I know Alonzo would appreciate it. White Oak Foundation would appreciate it. You cannot do affordable housing in Wake County unless you got some person, someone to come in to give some incentives. The land price is just too costly. Everybody saying affordable housing, but no one wants to build it because there's no money in it, big money. So I beg of you to even look deeper into this project and say to White Oak Foundation, we got the people to put in the houses already. Don't worry about that. We got those. We got our own housing counselor that's been approved by HUD. We have all the tools that we need, that we can do the housing counseling, the budget financing, and so forth for individuals. But we need that incentive because of the cost. It costs to do affordable housing. So as you think down the road about affordable housing, think about how you can help people like White Oak Foundation, Alonzo, who've been working with us for the last 40 years. Okay, ever since I've been there, he's been with me. He's been right there. That's his job, to go out and find places where we can do affordable housing.
Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate you, Mr. Mayor, and we appreciate your effort, all of your efforts, in having affordable housing in Apex. Because unless you do it, it will not get done. Remember that. Thank you.
Reverend Tyner?
Thank you.
Oh, I want to make sure if anybody had any comments before you take your seat.
Thank you.
We just got our sermons, so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I know you're going to say in closing, because I know most reverends do that.
In closing, if all minds and hearts are clear.
No, I just want to point out Lynch Street and what the amazing job you guys did there. I remember that I was a police officer then, and we had some problem areas there.
You know what the problem was?
What's that?
The problem on Lynch Street? You know what it was infested with? We went there and took the house that did the most of that. Activities were taking place. We tore it down.
Yes, sir.
Just to make sure there wouldn't be a place where people would gather.
Thank you, sir.
Got you.
All right. All right. I'll go ahead and close public hearing. That was the last speaker tonight. And so we're going to refer back to council for a possible motion. So we have the annexation and the rezoning like separate. So we'll start with the annexation.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to approve Stallings.
Stallings.
Second,
Killingsworth.
Killingsworth. Okay. Any discussion on that?
Can you make sure to include the additional conditions?
Well, that's in the next one, right?
Next.
That's in the rezoning.
This was the annexation,
Yeah.
right?
Okay. Thank you, though. Any discussion on that? All right.
So,
Oh.
so I will say, based on what was in my packet, the information that I had, the information that, I heard related to what staff wanted to do, I was not initially going to support this project if it didn't get those conditions, and I didn't hear a little bit more about sort of what that we wanted to do with that property. So I appreciate both of you standing up and providing more information and more to make me feel better about that, and appreciate accepting what staff has asked for. I think that I understand personal feelings, but I prefer to have more professional feelings around that. So that is why I will support this project. Otherwise, I was not going to.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. All right, any other discussion?
Are we just voting on the annexation right now? Mayor?
Correct.
Okay.
All right.
Can I clarify? We usually do them together, don't we? Because you're not going to annex if you rezone.
We need two separate motions, but you can talk about them at the same time.
Okay.
It's just that we.
I thought we do them together. Okay. Okay, good. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Y'all ready to vote? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. All right, that passed unanimously. Now we move to the rezoning.
And I'll make a motion to approve with the conditions offered by the applicant. So what that includes the 100-foot riparian buffer, the affordable housing condition. Is there any others?
So make the riparian buffer for all perennial streams.
Right. 100-foot riparian buffer provided for all perennial streams in accordance with the requirements of UDO section 6.1.
Okay, is that all of them? Is that it?
That and the affordable housing condition were the only two that were added.
Okay.
I second it, Stallings.
Okay. Any more discussion before we vote?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Go ahead, ma'am.
I will say I'm right along the same wavelength as Mayor Pro Tem Dozier with this one. I was definitely heading toward a no, because until we had more information and we had more conditions that explained what this project was about. Because we have so many subdivisions going in and developments going in that are the same old thing, that are not addressing the issues that people are telling us over and over again we need to address. Considering the trees, considering our water, considering affordable housing in it with all of this. So I greatly appreciate having those conditions added and understanding a little bit more about the idea of this development. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilman?
Mr. Mayor, I'll just add my voice to the chorus here of, coming into this ready to fight and to scream about, trees and streams and all that stuff. But the affordable housing condition offered here is extremely strong, and this is something that should be commended, and it's incredibly impressive what's been offered tonight and what's been put together. And of course, I'm going to support it, and I'm happy to do so. I want to make a couple other points that are kind of a side note about the RCA requirement that we put in place here, and the RCA being offered with this project. Just sort of for the record, we recently passed a UDO amendment that raised the RCA requirement in this area by 5%, with the understanding that we would negotiate at an earlier stage in the process reductions to that RCA. This particular project, unfortunately, the first one to come through, they're just doing the whole RCA at 35%, which is not my intention. I intended to negotiate down and say, hey, you know, give us some solar, give us some affordable housing. And this project has enough conditions associated with it that we've been discussing, where I'd have been happy to agree to a reduction in the RCA had one been required. It just turns out that, you know, topography of the area, you know, because of the things that don't need it. But just for future reference, I definitely am interested in seeing these kind of conditions, and am willing to discuss reducing that RCA as needed to encourage people to come up with them. So that was my big thing that I wanted to make a note of. The other one is, again, canopy cover is another big issue we discuss. With a project that has a large, generous, affordable component, that's something that, again, is negotiable. In this case, I just want to point out the majority of the buildable area is already cleared, so that's a non-issue here for me. So, thank you.
All right, anyone else? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. All right, that passed unanimously. Thank you. All right, move to public hearing number 3. Adam Stevenson, Town of Apex Engineering Supervisor.
I don't know if I've prepared sufficiently to follow a preacher, so bear with me. So I'm here tonight as the floodplain administrator for the town. The amendments we're proposing for the flood ordinance, the language was all provided by the North Carolina Department of Public Safety, Emergency Management Division. The language is all taken from, they have a model ordinance for non-coastal communities. Most of these changes are very minor. Overall, our ordinance is more restrictive than FEMA's minimum standards, so that's not changing here. I will highlight 2 of the changes, more significant. The basis for establishing special flood hazard areas. This new language allows for automatic adoption of flood maps. So our current maps were issued in 2006. We are expecting within the next year or so issuance of new maps. So this will allow for automatic adoption of those. And the other key change in provisions for flood hazard reduction, we're adding language to address letters of map change. These are permits issued by FEMA for floodway encroachment. These have been issued in Apex for years. We've just lacked the language to account for it. Those are the highlights I wanted to hit in the ordinance proposed amendments, but I did want to mention while I'm here, share some data, flood insurance data. We currently have 121 policies in force in Apex. Total annual premiums of just under $54,000. The total insurance value in force is over $36 million. Apex joined the National Flood Insurance Program in 1992, and in the 28 years we've been in the program, we've had a total of 3 paid losses. Total value of those losses is $1,300. I think that speaks to the health of our floodplain management. I also think it's worth noting that all 3 of those losses occurred in Zone X. This is essentially outside of the FEMA floodplain. It's outside of the FEMA 1% annual chance, also referred to as the 100-year storm. So I think that's significant. And I'm not taking any credit for that. All the credit, as far as the health of our floodplain management, goes to Diane Ken, Planning Director. She convinced council back in 2000 to restrict all residential lots from being located in the floodplain, and that was huge. So that's all I wanted to share as far as the highlights. I'm happy to answer any questions, and the Planning Board did approve the proposed amendments.
I'm definitely glad to hear that. You know, that's not a whole lot of policies, which is fine, but I'm glad to see that only, 3 have been in a position to use them. So.
I just want to echo that I think Diane's change in 2000 is in the Hall of Fame of ordinances in Apex, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Thank you, sir. All right, I'll go ahead and open up public hearing for this item. No one has signed up to speak tonight, so I'll close public hearing and refer it back to council for possible motion to approve.
Motion to approve, Dozier.
Second, Gant.
Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All right, it passed unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Stevenson. All right, public hearing number 4, Amanda Bunce presenting tonight.
It's nice to have someone else presenting UDO amendments for a change. Share the love. Okay, this next set of UDO amendments includes 4 different amendments, and I'll pause after each one in case you have questions. The first amendment is to require meets and bounds description of RCA within master subdivision plans and site plan plats. This is currently an application requirement and applies to plans, but we want to make sure that it's the meets and bounds are provided on the plats as well, that it's an ordinance requirement, not just an application requirement. So not a substantial change. Any questions on that one?
Today, they're only recorded in the application?
So the ordinance requires the meets and bounds description with the plans, but when it comes time to record the plat, it's only an application requirement. We've been getting them on the plats, but we want to make sure that it's an ordinance requirement and not just an application requirement, that it's specific in this way. So it's really not changing anything, it's just codifying an application requirement.
Common practices today.
Mm-hmm.
Generally speaking, would you say going to the plats should be the way if you're a resident in a subdivision, looking where your RCA is? We ran across this before in our subdivision where we didn't know what our RCA was, and we didn't know how to look it up, and we had various phases across 2 decades, and we ended up actually just asking the town, and they put it together for us at the time. So is going to the plats the way going forward, or is it the way generally in the past?
So RCA is already shown on the plats because we ensure that what's shown on the plans is shown on the plats. This is providing that meets and bounds description, the specific points. The whole, like, that you would see like in a legal description. So including that meets and bounds description of the RCA, so it's known specifically where that RCA is, which also helps ensure that we map those areas correctly going forward, so we can keep a record of RCA areas within the town. That's another benefit of it. The next amendment is to the parking lot design standards section to add a requirement for non-residential and multifamily developments to provide cross-access easements and driveways for adjacent parcels that would also be developed with non-residential or multifamily uses. So currently this is negotiated often at the rezoning or even the site plan stage where it makes sense, and we believe that it's time to codify this requirement. We modeled our ordinance off of a couple other jurisdictions, Raleigh and Greensboro to be specific, but it's not uncommon for this type of requirement to be in a UDO. So the requirement, again, is for non-residential and multifamily sites proposed along a thoroughfare. So when you're talking about our thoroughfares, you don't want to have an excessive number of driveway cuts or intersections. You want to reduce those to reduce the amount of friction along that thoroughfare to keep the traffic moving more smoothly. And so if we can restrict the number of driveways by requiring the cross-access, the driveways connecting between properties, then we can improve the traffic flow along the thoroughfare. So if you're at this business and you want to go to this business, you don't have to get out onto the main road. You can just have connecting parking lots, essentially. So the standards include 25 minimum cross-access and driveway construction easement with a 20-foot minimum driveway connection, and where the site is vacant, then we would go by the zoning and the future land use map designation. The Public Works and Transportation Director would review the location based on existing cross-access easements, if there was one already provided on an adjacent property, topography, location of environmental features, safety considerations, and existing infrastructure obstructions. And so the site that's developing would have to construct that driveway stub, much like a subdivision has to construct a street stub to an adjacent property. This would be connecting that driveway stub. And additional driveway access to the thoroughfare shall be avoided except in cases where additional access is reviewed and approved by the Public Works and Transportation Director according to the minimum distances specified based on the type of intersection, whether it's right in, right out, full movement on a minor or major thoroughfare. And then the Public Works and Transportation Director may reduce the minimum spacing separation above by no more than 10% upon review of site constraints and a traffic impact analysis when required. So it gives a little bit of flexibility if someone's within 10% of those distances. And there can be exceptions to the cross-access requirement, which would be approved by the Public Works and Transportation Director with similar standards that would be reviewed during determining where that location should be, location of existing easements, topography, environmental features, safety, and infrastructure obstructions. There may be cases where it's just not simply possible. And then the rights of vehicular access must be granted to all abutting properties and recorded, along with the site plan final plat. No CO will be signed until evidence of the recordation is provided to the Planning and Community Development Department. And the cross-access and driveway construction agreement shall be certified by an attorney licensed to practice law in North Carolina. Are there any questions on this amendment?
I think it's also worth doing that pedestrian and bicycle safety would be enhanced as well, not just traffic, vehicular traffic, because I've been hit by a car on a sidewalk before in Chapel Hill when I was in college, and if there had been less driveways, it might not have happened. I was okay, but it scared me a little bit.
Yes. Any other questions on that? Okay. The third amendment is to the standards regarding corner lots and residential driveway standards in order to limit the number of driveways for single-family residential properties to one with certain exceptions. And so the amendments here indicate that we want to see that front lot line specified on a master subdivision final plat for those corner lots so we know where the front is. And then, except in the next section that I'm going to review, the final plat shall note that the access is limited to one and shall not be from a thoroughfare or a major collector street. And for the number of access points, single-family residential properties are limited to one driveway access point to the public street system, except in the following cases, where you have a circular drive that's associated with a historic property. Homes without an existing garage or carport, where a proposed garage or carport would be served from a different street, so basically the side street, than the existing driveway. Or construction of an accessory apartment where the accessory apartment would be served from a different street than the primary driveway. So just a few exceptions to having more than one access to the public street system.
Question about that, and I don't know if this is still the case, but don't home daycares have to have some sort of circular drive, or is that not the case? So if they had someone that had a childcare home, would they not be able to fit into that if they had a circular drive? Or?
So in home day, I'm not certain of that. I'm not aware.
We issue permits for those, and there are houses that do not have circular driveways.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Okay. And finally, the last one is the easiest. I found a typo in a section reference, and so we're just changing a 7 to a 6 to correct the section reference. So easy enough there. And I'm happy to answer any other questions that you may have. Also, the Planning Board recommended approval of these amendments at their last meeting.
Okay. Thank you, Amanda. No questions for Amanda? All right, I'll go ahead and open up public hearing for this item. No one has signed up to speak tonight, so I'll close public hearing and refer back to council. Possible motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Dozier.
Second, Gant.
All right. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. All right, that passed unanimously. We move on now to public hearing number 5. Shannon Cox, Long Range Planning Manager.
Good evening again. The purpose of this public hearing is to consider numerous amendments to the Thoroughfare and Collector Street Plan Map. These are mostly associated with our quality review of the GIS data behind the Advanced Apex update. You may remember we did a similar exercise for the Bike Ped System Plan Map, and now we've done that for this map. So I want to just let you know right off the bat that planning staff reviewed these proposed amendments with police, fire, EMS, and Public Works and Transportation staff, and there were no concerns about any of these amendments. Planning staff are also recommending all of these amendments, and they were unanimously recommended by the planning board. So since there's numerous, just wanted to give you that up front. Okay, so I'll present these generally from west to east, and they are in this order in your staff report as well. So the first amendment is just east of New Hill Olive Chapel Road, which is here, and north of Hume Olive Road. The adopted plan shows this future local connection, which is pretty much a future residential street from New Hill Olive Chapel Road and heading south to Hume Olive. The recommendation is to add this connection to Reagan Road, which would follow Stick Barn Lane. I'll pause for questions about that. I do want to note also that this is not a programmed project and would most likely be built as part of any future development. Okay. The next amendment is north of Olive Chapel Road, which is here, and east of New Hill Olive Chapel Road. Again, it's a future local connection. We're recommending a slight change to the alignment to follow existing driveways and avoid this structure here. Again, this is not a program project and would most likely occur as part of future development. Any questions for this one? Okay. Now we are in the vicinity of South Salem Street and Apex Peakway. This is the Apex Peakway Southwest Connector project. The first amendment here is a slight shift in the alignment of the major collector that would extend from Apex Peakway to South Salem, so it would shift slightly west. This is to match the approved plans for this project. This is a funded project with construction anticipated in 2021. On this same figure, we are recommending a slight shift to what I'll call the future extension of James Street. So almost hard to see here, but slightly shifting it south. The purpose is to align it with the stub at Flint Valley Lane. This is not a programmed project and would most likely be developed or built as part of future development. Any questions for those two? Okay. Okay, moving slightly south and west. The next amendment, and this is not an amendment that was quality review, but we are proposing to upgrade the future extension of James Street from this future east-west major collector to Veridia Parkway, from a minor collector street to a future major collector street. We actually brought this forward previously as a package of amendments when you consider Depot 499, but felt like it should be considered individually on its own. The purpose of this change is to plan for a roadway that would not have residential driveways directly connecting to a roadway that's likely to have high traffic volumes as it connects to thoroughfares. And then on this same figure, there is a proposed amendment to show a future local connection extending from Flint Valley Lane down to this east-west major collector. The purpose of this amendment is to be transparent that this roadway will extend in the future and to provide for future connectivity. Neither of these are programmed projects, and they would both most likely be part of future development. Any questions about these two?
Shannon, can you speak to, I was out in this area somewhat recently, and I know it's not really on this, quite on this, the changes, but the Iron Gate does not line up with the Tingen, I think is what that road is there. Or, yeah, Tingen, I guess, curls in. So, I mean, nothing's really built there yet. I mean, is that a concern from you guys?
So Iron Gate, there's not many homes here, and there is some right-of-way located here, and that's why it's aligned in this location. I can let Russell speak to whether he'd have any concerns about that particular location.
It's not very far. It's like maybe 100 feet offset. I was just out there, so I kind of was walking around.
That's already built, right? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that connection's already built. It's a 2-lane road. So, yeah, I mean, obviously do have concerns with the offset, but, you know, the planning at that time resulted in that connection. So, I mean, worst case in the future, we may have to look at some access limitations there, but as far as the offset goes, as long as there's not any turn lanes that conflict between the two intersections, it's just a 2-lane road, it's not currently an issue. There's enough offset to allow vehicles to turn without...
Yeah, it's not a current issue at all, I don't think, but if there's this area might be really busy at some point, and I've noticed that in the past, and I know it's not part of this discussion, so maybe it's superfluous, but it didn't line up, and I was like, it'd be nice if it did.
Right, and I don't remember all the reasons in the past for why it didn't exactly line up at that intersection, but if you notice, there's also another road, which is the continuation of Tingen that curves back to the west, which I think used to be gravel, but I think has since been paved. Maybe since I haven't been out
Maybe that's the
for
one I'm
years,
thinking of,
so-
actually.
Yeah, that curves back to the west and hooks around, which is actually Tingen.
Yeah, okay. Right, okay, so one of them is part of Salem Village, and one of them is Tingen?
Yeah, and in between is Iron Gate.
In between is
That's
Iron
right.
Gate, okay.
Yeah, so, I mean, they all don't line up right now, but, I mean, in the future, again, if there start to be issues, we may have to look at access limitations. Obviously, with Iron Gate, if it's a single access to the neighborhood, we need to keep that open as full movement.
Yeah.
But there may be other options to change the roadway geometry out there in the future.
Okay.
And I do want to point out that Tingen is shown on the long-range plan as future 4-lane median divided, so that may also, you know, depending on which points have full movement access, that may come into play as well.
Okay.
Okay. Now we are in the vicinity of Apex Barbecue Road and Evans Road. This is another future local connection extending from Jerrymouth Drive. The proposal is to shift the alignment slightly north to avoid steep slopes in this area and align the intersection with the Apex Nature Park entrance there. This would most likely occur as part of future development. It's not a programmed project. Here we're in the vicinity of 1010 Road, north of Jesse Drive. This large parcel is Knights Play Golf Center. The recommended change here is to slightly shift the major collector street. The main reasons are so that it aligns better with the Penny Road intersection and to keep this all on one parcel. This is not a program project and William Street interchange. Our adopted plan shows a future grade separation over US 1, but we don't have a roadway type associated with that. So we'd like to show a future major collector street so that when it does come time to look at building that project, there's some clarity and guidance about what we're trying to build. The purpose of this is to connect keep losing my mouse, sorry, to connect Shiflin and Lufkin Road. This would most likely not occur as part of development. It's also not a program project in the 10-year state TIP or our 5-year CIP. However, US 1 is a programmed project, so it would be good to have this on our plans as we work with NCDOT on that project. Any questions about that?
Does it seem strange that a minor collector and major collector are just meeting at Schlifflin right there, and why not make?
Shiflin is an existing road. Marco and Shiflin are existing. There aren't residential streets there, so it's probably less of a concern than we may otherwise be worried about. But I understand your point, but they're two existing streets and we're trying to connect them. Okay, now we are north of Sunset Lake Road and west of Stevenson Road. This large parcel here is anticipated to be future Felton Grove High School. We have a few amendments. The first is to show a future local connection between Smith Road and this is Ballytor Lane. The purpose of this would be to provide for future connectivity. It would most likely be built as part of development. We are also recommending a shift north of this future major collector street, which would eventually connect Reunion Creek Parkway and Thriftwood Drive. This is actually consistent with our previous transportation plan. We had tried to provide as much room for the high school as possible, but their preliminary plans actually show it further north. Associated with that, we are recommending a shift in this part of the future minor collector street to the west. You can see here that it would impact these driveway or backyards and come close to the homes in this location, so we'd like to make a revision there. This particular roadway will be difficult to build. It is not likely to occur as part of any near-term development project, and it's also not a program project. So it's really providing for future connectivity.
Is the topography just not great for it out there?
It is. It's not, sorry. And then there's the landfill site there. It's a very constrained corridor. So it'll be a difficult project to build someday, but we would like to keep it on the transportation plan.
Can you clarify a little bit about the preliminary school design? And you said it matches our old transportation plan? Is that what I heard you say?
So just the alignment, we had shifted this not knowing what may happen when we, with the school site, when we were working on Advanced Apex, we had numerous collector streets crisscrossing this particular parcel. We made several revisions at that time to try to provide as much space as possible per the request from Wake County Public School System.
And then they came back with a design which was just consistent with what we originally did.
Well, just for that one street.
Just for that one street.
Just for that one street, yes. This is just a summary of the amendments in case you need to reference any of these, and I'm happy to answer any further questions that you may have. As I stated initially, planning staff recommend all of these, and planning board unanimously recommended approval.
I just had a question or comment, Ms. Cox. It sounds like a lot of this is thinking about future development and connectivity and so forth. Can you speak to the impact of any homes, businesses, or faith communities with these? It sounds like there might have been only maybe one amendment that might have had some potential impact that you all are thinking about. Are there others?
So let me just quickly scroll through here. I mean, typically with the long-range transportation plan, we try to avoid existing structures to the extent feasible. It's not always feasible. And when we're thinking about most of these roadway projects, they would typically be part of redevelopment. So what's not on the ground now, I mean, what is on the ground most likely would not be in the future. So we did have, I think, one local connection that we tried to use existing driveways instead of coming close to an existing house. That was the local connection adjacent to Lovitch Drive. Quickly flip through. And then I think the only other one, I mean, these all impact private property, but like I said, they would be, you know, associated with redevelopment. The other one was the minor collector shift north of Sunset Lake and going up toward the future high school. That was cutting off those backyards there. Does that answer your question?
How many backyards are we talking about? Any idea?
Appears to be 2 and a corner.
So we shifted it to avoid that, correct?
Correct. Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, we'll open up public hearing for this item. No one has signed up to speak, so we'll close public hearing and refer it back to council, lead to a possible motion.
Pattern going, you want to?
Go ahead.
No, you're first, though.
Okay.
Motion approved?
To approve.
See, we dawdled. We
I
dawdled.
second it, Stallings.
All right, so we had Mayor Pro Tem, was that your motion? or-
No, Terry
Oh,
Mears.
Terry
Terry
Mears.
Mears.
All right, Councilman
Terry
Mahaffey. Okay, all right.
Mr. Mahaffey.
All right, and second by Stallings. Okay. All right, any more discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. All right, that passed unanimously. Moving now to public hearing 6. Ms. Jenna Schaus.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
So I'll be presenting for public hearing number 6, a public hearing and possible motion regarding proposed amendments to the bicycle and pedestrian system plan map. So the purpose of these amendments is to update the bicycle and pedestrian system plan map for consistency with the Depot 499 approved, or PUD, which was the approved rezoning. And so we're looking at the area along South Salem Street, west of the intersection with Apex Peakway. And there are 3 amendments associated with Depot 499. The first is the addition of side path along the west side of South Salem Street from Apex Barbecue Road down to the NC 540 interchange.
Can I stop you right there? That one I thought was already on the plan. Was it not?
We had side path along South Salem north of Apex Barbecue Road, but this extended it further south for consistency with what Depot 499 proposed in their PUD.
Okay. I thought they proposed it because it was already on the map, but I guess maybe I was mistaken in that.
And then the next one came from Town Council's recommendation, or Town Council's condition for the Depot 499 rezoning. And that's the addition of a proposed grade-separated pedestrian crossing of South Salem Street and the railroad tracks, shown right here. And then the third is a staff addition, so that includes proposed greenway from that proposed grade-separated pedestrian crossing to the future intersection of James Street and Padstone Drive, just to complete that pedestrian connection. And then this figure is included to provide some context for the location of the proposed grade-separated pedestrian crossing. First, I'm going to reference the actual condition that was included in the PUD text. So it notes that at the time of major site plan for any development in PODs I and J, the developer agrees to dedicate an approximately 25-foot by 25-foot area along South Salem Street frontage to serve as a connection point for a future grade-separated pedestrian crossing of Salem Street and the railroad. So this map shows, it points out PODs I, J, and S, and PODs I and J are both proposed as multifamily residential, and Pod S is the proposed school. So we're proposing to add the pedestrian crossing at the southern end of Pod J to provide an area where we anticipate high pedestrian volumes, and also to serve as a safe route to this future school. So we'll go back to this map, and these proposed amendments were reviewed with staff from Public Works and Transportation, as well as Police, Fire, EMS, and Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources, and they did not express any concerns. And then a representative of the Depot 499 development also reviewed this and noted that it was consistent with the intent of the PUD. And planning staff recommend approval of the proposed amendments, and planning board did as well at their last meeting. So I'm here if you have any questions.
Okay. Any questions? None? Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, we'll open up public hearing for this item. No one has signed up to speak tonight. Therefore, we'll close public hearing, refer back to council. Possible motion.
Motion to approve, Gant.
Seconded, no Dozier.
There you go.
All right. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. All right, that passed unanimously. And we're almost at 2 hours. Let's take a 10-minute, and we'll come back.
Which is just one more, right? Before the work session.
Is that? Yeah.
It's just one more, but okay, that's fine.
It might be lengthy, though. I don't know.
I would
You think it's gonna be
appreciate
lengthy?
a
Okay, sorry.
You know, a break? Okay. All right, let's take a 10-minute break. Thank you.
Well, I would have applied that, so I cannot anyway, because it's well.
There are a lot of people that drive that road that, if they think about it, support it. I was looking at all the new dates for all our projects that you sent out, as part of the info summary. Most of them are like 30, 30, 20, 30, 20, 31. And I was like, and that's like well past the all of it.
I just know it's going to change, and I hope it changes for the better at some point. I mean, there's going to be a whole public safety activity before, twice, before those projects come.
Well, I guess it's a possible. The federal government, we keep saying infrastructure, not doing a thing, it's getting done in the next 4 years, so there might be a lot of money that just gets poured. It did happen after the 2008 and 2010 recession, and we weren't ready. So if we're ready and have projects, DOT's gonna be like, hey, who's ready? I got it. Here's one. Hopefully we'll be in good shape for the pretty sure I'm gonna move before they do 55%. I don't wanna live down there.
For a while now, but think about it.
It actually, for me personally, is better timing not to have to deal with it.
It's too bad some of these projects are under construction like this year.
Right.
When people aren't.
I know, it's good enough, great, good enough, great, honestly.
It's been wonderful. That's like coming in.
So the funniest thing, the traffic has been worse on 55 around Lake. It's not the
Tell them to hurry up, please.
They're starting to free up money, so.
That's good.
The good news. Got an email past week, they want all municipalities to provide them a spreadsheet of what we think our monthly projected reimbursements will be once they authorize us to request reimbursement again, so they're starting to project that, they can handle. They told me I can start asking for money on the downtown project and reimburse us for construction once they approve the additional money that they finally allowed us to send in. So we'll get paid back on that. Yeah, for the project we're doing now, because we've been holding all the construction reimbursements during construction because they basically told us we can't request anything.
I didn't realize it for that project.
Yeah, they allowed us to move forward. It's one of those they allowed to move forward because it was not to ask for any money reimbursement. Like, you can do it, just don't ask us for any money. And then they said, you can't do it at all, even if you don't ask for money. They're working on this NC First Commission. I don't know if you've heard of them, but they're looking at, it's I guess a statewide group that's looking at funding sources for DOT. So the gas tax that's over 100 years old now is way outdated. So they're looking at, VMT and increasing sales tax and other things to try and help fund transportation. We're woefully underfunded.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully they'll be able to start some interest in this.
But did that a couple of years ago too.
Okay.
Well, I remember when Class 1 was, before it was built, they were talking about, how to do the tolling and paying for it, is it going to be, and that was, I'm happy to be told.
On certain facilities, it makes sense. I think for loop, for major loop freeway facilities, it makes sense. I have a problem with tolling on, like interstate through routes. I think, and I think there's concern of equity and stuff, interstate travel.
No other choice but to take that route.
Yeah, when it comes to like an urban interstate loop, I mean, that's, I think that should be. Yeah, I've been told 544, you don't make a lot of money off that one, much traffic.
You know what? I'd rather take 540 nowadays than 440. I feel like the heater needs to be turned on.
Oh, it's got chilly in here too?
Got a little chilly.
Cold. I'm really cold.
Yeah. I get cold too. Hey, Mr. Manager, is there a way to control the thermostat?
That says multiple people.
But if I used to have a heater under here. Yeah, I had one. Miss Donna gave me one last time. She took it back.
Yeah, when my ankles start getting cold, it's getting cold.
It's getting cold. If I wore socks, I might be warmer.
Need some sand? Got too much.
You good? All right. All right, well, we're back in session. We'll start with public hearing number 7. Shannon Cox, again.
Got a little breather. Okay, the purpose of this public hearing is to consider possible reversal of 2 of the amendments that were previously approved that came from recommendations from the Regional Southwest Area Study led by Campo. So these will look familiar, but because I know we have some new listeners, I'm going to go through the background of these 2 projects. So the first amendment that we're considering is along New Hill Olive Chapel Road between Olive Chapel Road and Old US 1 Highway. So in October, the town council amended the transportation plan to upgrade this roadway from an existing 2-lane rural thoroughfare to a 4-lane with median. So tonight, we're considering the reversal, downgrading to an existing 2-lane rural thoroughfare. The original recommendation for the 4-lane facility from the Southwest Area Study was associated with traffic model runs for this route. That study projects that 15,000 to around 18,000 vehicles per day will use this corridor by 2045. By comparison, NCDOT measured 6,900 vehicles per day along this corridor in 2019. The recommendation to upgrade the facility was also associated with a recommendation to upgrade this part of the corridor to highway standards and sign it as future NC 751, which would extend 751 from north of US 64 all the way down a new location in some areas to US 401 in Lillington. So a total extension of the corridor of 20 miles. So this is seen as a regional route and important for regional commuter travel. So the change to 4 lanes with median would provide traffic capacity benefits compared to the 2-lane rural thoroughfare. The concerns, the main concerns are the possible loss of the rural context of this corridor as well as potential property impacts. Known major constraints along the corridor include a cemetery located south of Olive Chapel Road, historic structures along the corridor, but especially concentrated in crossroads areas, including Olive Chapel Road, Hume Olive Road, and Old US 1 Highway. This corridor also crosses Little Beaver Creek and its floodway through the U.S. Army Corps of Engineer property north of Hume Olive Road. So one of the things that we talked about last time, and I've added a slide to depict, is that the town's typical section for our 4-lane median thoroughfare and our 2-lane rural thoroughfare start with the same amount of right-of-way. So it's 110 feet in both cases. And you can see that this is the 4-lane median. The total right-of-way is shown across the top in both cases. In constrained areas, we have the ability to minimize our section. That's not done at the planning level. That would be done at the time of design. We would need a minimum of 80 feet in very constrained areas for a 4-lane median divided thoroughfare. Narrowing down to that extent, you would lose the median and the ability to have turn lanes. And there would be trade-offs, like narrowing the side paths or the space between sidewalk and back of curb, potentially losing bike lanes. So there's trade-offs. We would want to look at that as part of the actual design of a project, understanding the turning movements, the constraints on the ground, the topography, and having the benefit of survey. The original amendment to upgrade this facility to a 4-lane median divided roadway was reviewed with staff from Public Works and Transportation, Police, Fire, and EMS. Given the added capacity, there were no concerns from these disciplines about this amendment. The fire department did request to be involved in project design, which they always are, to have input on median break locations. Planning staff did not make a recommendation suggesting that the determination of the balance between traffic capacity and context is best made by the planning board and town council. However, we understand the request to provide a recommendation. While we recognize the desire to maintain a rural corridor and minimize property impacts, the regional importance of this route as future NC 751 is the driving factor. For this reason, planning staff recommends maintaining the 4-lane median divided thoroughfare designation for consistency with regional plans and rejecting the proposed reversal of the recently approved amendment. Planning board also unanimously concurred with planning staff recommendation and recommended rejecting the proposed reversal. I can pause for questions on this one or go to the next one, whichever you prefer.
Questions on this one?
I just have questions. Do you know how many properties would be impacted? What's going to happen to the historical structures and what's going to happen to the cemetery at the church?
So I can't tell you those details at the planning level because we don't have survey. I don't know the topography. We don't know how much we can minimize the corridor, but there would be impacts. I also don't know what would be on the ground when this project would actually be built. Historic structures and homes do change over time. So those types of impacts we analyze and quantify when a project is designed. I do know that the cemetery is very close to the roadway. You know, we talked about it at planning board. I think it's potentially even within the right-of-way in some areas. So there would likely be impacts. Sorry, that's not a specific answer to your question, but I can't give you one at the planning level.
Would keeping this designation as a 4-lane reduce the further impacts as development happens through this area?
I'm not quite understanding your question. I'm sorry.
So the more, well, let me take that back, because you're requesting 110 feet right away regardless through this area.
Correct.
So whether development happens or not through this area, you're still requesting that 110 foot right away. Okay, I think I answered my own question.
Okay.
Sorry.
One thing that would be lost by not amending the transportation plan consistent with the regional recommendation is, you know, the Capital Area Metropolitan Planning Organization is in the process of updating their transportation plan now. That's how projects get funneled into the prioritization process. If they're not shown on that plan, they won't be considered for funding. And typically, if a local municipality does not agree with the project, it's not usually incorporated in that regional plan.
So you mentioned the historical nature of the area, and so what feedback, or did you reach out to experts related to historical features? No?
So we have a member of the Capital Area Preservation, of the Apex Historical Society, thank you.
Also at least the chair of the Wake County Historic Preservation Commission.
On the planning board. The recommendation came from the Southwest Area Study. There's not an analysis of historic impacts done as part of that study. And it's an existing corridor. So, you know, we're not looking at minimizing on a new location roadway. It's basically whether or not we feel this existing corridor should be widened in the future. We do know that we do have another recommendation from the Southwest Area Study at the intersection of Old US 1 and New Hill Olive Chapel Road that we did receive input about the historic context of that area, and we're working with Wake County to further analyze that, and that's why we have not brought it forward to this point. Should I go to the next?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so the next, oops, I had already advanced. The next project is a similar situation. We have a recommendation from the Southwest Area Study for North Salem Street. The original recommendation was to widen North Salem Street from Apex Peakway to US 64 to a future 4-lane with median. Our adopted plan showed a 3-lane widening. We've made an administrative update to the plan to show the section from US 64 to all-wheel drive as existing 5-lane. So we're really focused now on all-wheel drive to Apex Peakway. So what we're considering tonight is a reversal of the previously approved amendment, which would change the plan from 4-lane with median back to 3-lane thoroughfare. The original recommendation from the Southwest Area Study was based on traffic model runs, which project traffic volumes between 23,000 and 26,400 vehicles per day on this corridor. By comparison, North Carolina DOT measured 9,500 vehicles per day in 2019. The main concern for this corridor is the historic resources along the corridor, the urban context, and the gateway to the downtown area. Again, as I explained with New Hill Olive Chapel Road, we do have the ability to narrow our 110-foot typical 4-lane median section in very constrained areas. So we did prepare a graphic for this, and I want to provide the same caveats that this is just planning level based on aerials, not topography or survey. But let me zoom in here. So the hashed line here represents the additional width that we would estimate would be needed to get to an 80-foot minimum. So that's the absolute minimum, and we would have all of those trade-offs to consider. And that the yellow line closest to the corridor represents the current right-of-way. So I'll just kind of scroll down there, and you can see how close just 80 feet would get to some of the homes where they're located now.
You're in 80 feet to the existing right-of-way with this? If this is 8, is it blue, how much would be requested?
No, so the blue is segmenting the different right-of-way widths down the corridor because it varies now. We have 60 feet in some areas, 70 in some areas. So the yellow line closest to the roadway edge depicts the existing right-of-way line based on parcel data, and the yellow line furthest away depicts what it would take to get to the 80 feet minimum. Again, just planning level. So that
blue is the second.
Blue is, you know, from here to here, that's 60 feet. From here to here, we have 70 feet now. So that's. Okay. So this project is not programmed in the town's 5-year capital improvement program, nor the state's 10-year transportation improvement program. This project was also, the original amendment to upgrade to 4 lanes with median was reviewed with staff from Public Works and Transportation, Police, Fire, and EMS. Given the capacity benefits and the traffic projections, there were no concerns. Police also noted the benefit of the ability to maintain traffic flow during carpool times with Thales, which creates long queues. Planning Department staff, again, did not make a recommendation during the original amendment for this roadway. However, given the high traffic volumes projected for the corridor, the strong public sentiment that we have heard to address traffic congestion across town, the change in the context that has already occurred along this corridor between US 64 and Apex Peakway. And finally, the flexibility to minimize the corridor during design. Planning staff recommends maintaining the 4-lane median divided thoroughfare designation and rejecting the proposed reversal of the recently approved amendment. Planning board considered this proposal at their, at their November 9th meeting. And the motion was to recommend denying the reversal, so keeping the 4-lane median divided. 6 were in favor of that recommendation and 2 were against. So 2 wanted to go back to the 3-lane.
What were the reasons for that?
They were consistent with what I indicated as concerns, the historic structures along the corridor, the context, and the gateway to the downtown area. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Has there been any discussion or collaboration with Thales to try to improve their traffic flow during drop-off times?
Russell may have feedback on that. I'm not sure if you do.
Yeah, there's been lots of collaboration, lots of planning efforts, and as you may recall with the Crossroads Ford site, there was an opportunity for those for that development to work with Thales and provide an internal connection back out to the traffic signal that was installed by Crossroads Ford. So there's been a lot that's been done. I don't know of anything else you really can do for that site, beyond, improving, widening the road. So, there's certainly been, they've been good working with us, and we've done as much as we can. We have, at least from what I've seen driving through there, we still have police out there in the mornings helping to direct traffic coming directly out of the school. And again, they also have that local route out to the traffic signal further north.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you. All right, we'll go ahead and open up public hearing for this item. We'll hear the recorded comments first. So if you want to go ahead and play those.
This public comment is from Mike Hicks, who lives on New Hill Olive Chapel Road, Apex. I would like to provide a few comments regarding the proposed amendments to change New Hill Olive Chapel Road to a future 4-lane with a median. I currently live on New Hill Olive Chapel Road, and I am strongly opposed to widening the road to 4 lanes with the median. I do not have scientific evidence to back this up, but from visual observations over the past 5 years, I believe a majority of the traffic currently on the road is from through traffic. People use this route to cut through from Highway 64 to US 1 and traveling to Holly Springs. While the traffic has increased in the last 5 years because of new development, and I assume will continue to increase with new development, it still does not warrant, in my opinion, a change to 4 lanes with the median. I think time and money would be better spent on other projects that were designed to handle an increase in traffic in the New Hill area, such as Highway 540, planned Richardson Road extension and interchange, Horton Ridge Boulevard, and Old US 1 upgrades. In my opinion, the following negative impacts will occur with the widening of New Hill Olive Chapel Road. It will allow for an increase of commercial traffic trucks to connect to US 1, making it easier for them to avoid paying tolls on 540. One of the main premises of completing 540 through Western Wake County was to allow for an increase in commercial and thoroughfare traffic. According to recent articles, the highway in this area is able to handle a significant increase in traffic. You're creating a road that would see increased speeds due to more lanes, creating dangerous conditions for residences and neighborhoods on the road. There are many residences currently on the road with driveway access. Imagine trying to back out of your driveway into a 4-lane road. It would be detrimental to current property owners, wildlife, and natural habitats that currently call this area home. In summary, widening New Hill Olive Chapel Road to 4 lanes with the median would not be doing the citizens of Apex any favors. It would actually increase traffic in a rural area just by allowing easier connectivity for through traffic to Holly Springs, Sanford, US 1, etc. The increase in traffic and speeds would result in more accidents, decreased property values, and noise pollution to an area that is one of the only rural areas left in Apex. The planned amendments to the other roads in the area, as mentioned above, will benefit the citizens in this area and allow better connectivity for residents. Let's allow our highways and NCDOT to take on the increase in through traffic instead of spending money creating highways in rural neighborhoods. Thank you. This public comment is from Patrick and Kim Tierney, who live at 2512 Great Daisy Lane. To whom it may concern, we are currently building a house in Woodbury subdivision on New Hill Olive Chapel Road. We expect to move in as of April 2021, and our address is 2512 Great Daisy Lane. Our family and friends have all moved to New Hill Olive Chapel Road for many reasons. We love the people, the community of Apex, and New Hill. It seems that many people feel the same and will continue to move here. We would like to support the expansion of New Hill Olive Chapel Road into a 4-lane corridor with a median. We have personally seen more than one biker on that road almost get. We have seen numerous accidents. We have spent more than 20 minutes at a time waiting during construction blocks due to the new developments they are putting in. All of this can be resolved with 4 lanes. This subdivision isn't even fully built yet and will have 400 homes, plus the subdivision coming in across the street, plus the one on the corner of New Hill Olive Chapel and Olive Chapel. The road is already clogged and we are not even at full capacity. We understand those who want to keep it rural and as is, but the future has already arrived on that road and we need to increase the lanes to meet the needs of the increased traffic. Please consider making it a 4-lane road. Thank you for your time. This public comment is from Rebecca Ward, who lives at 2639 Jazzy Street, New Hill. Hello, I am emailing in to participate remotely in the upcoming discussion of the expansion of New Hill Olive Chapel Road. It is my understanding that the initial decision to expand the road to 4 lanes is in jeopardy of being reversed. I currently live in Woodbury with young children who will eventually go to Apex Friendship Elementary School. This will increase the already heavy traffic that is on the road currently. This is no longer a rural road with all the houses being built, and it is dangerous. I am in favor of the road expansion for the safety of my family and the fellow residents. Also, this will in general keep the traffic to a minimum. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Conrad. Okay, we'll now call up Jeff Hastings, please.
Thank you, Mayor, Town Council. Jeff Hastings, 3609 Friendship Road, Apex. I am the president of the Apex Historical Society. I am the vice chair of the Wake County Historical Commission. Speaking about the road improvements plans. To answer your question, at the Olive Chapel, New Hill, Holloman Road intersection, there's 4 structures. Between there and Hemy Olive Road, there's 3 additional structures. At Hemy Olive Road, there are 2 structures directly across from each other. And then once you get to the New Hill crossroads of Old US 1, there's 5 structures, roughly. Plus, the New Hill area is a national, it's on the National Register, Historic Districts. So it would incorporate a section 106 where, you know, and I know that Russell's talked about possibly a bypass, and I think that's probably in the best offing if that's the way that ends up being. More specifically, my concern is the Salem Street. I went out this past week after the planning board and I measured the 110 feet. There are, and I said in the planning board there were 9 structures that would be impacted historically. I was incorrect. There are 7 structures. The 8th structure got torn down 2 weeks ago. The one was moved onto the Peakway about 3 years ago. So my apologies for misstating during the planning board meeting. However, the 7 additional structures, the average year that they were built is 1916. So they've been here for a while. The average, if you go to 110 feet on the road frontage, the average front yard for those 7 houses will be about 11 feet from their front door. Now, granted, you can mitigate it back to 80 feet, but imagine yourself as one of those 7 people that have a house there, and then they go to try to sell their house to somebody like myself. If you do your due process and you see that there's a potential 4-lane road that has a right-of-way up to 110 feet, the question came up in the planning board, well, maybe they can move their house. Well, I've been with the historical commission. We've moved, I think, 5 houses in the time that I've been on planning on the historical commission. You'd have to move the house a minimum of 30 feet to get it off the foundation. To do that, you're looking at a homeowner spending anywhere from $75,000 to $100,000 just to move the house. They then would go to new setbacks, I believe, and considering most of those houses are on the railroad side, you've got to deal with CSX. The other thing that was commented about was it's the main draw into downtown. Well, you run the risk of losing 7 structures into that downtown before you ever get to the historic downtown. And all at what cost? The cost is you've got people that are trying to get somewhere other than downtown Apex. So my suggestion is trying to figure out how can we get those people onto the roads that are there to get the people from A to B, rather than funneling them into a 2-lane road south of the Peakway to get to downtown. And I think you're just going to ruin the historical integrity of the main entrance into Apex if you keep it at a 4-lane divided highway. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to call up Aaron Bridges, please.
Hi, thank you. I'm Erin Bridges. I live at 1011 North Salem Street. I'm one of those 7 houses he was just talking about. And I'm asking you to please leave North Salem Street alone. I read the supporting documents before this meeting, and I fundamentally disagree with the reasoning behind the changes. We all know that once the long-term plan is approved, it's as good as done. While minor changes might be possible, the option to scale back will never be seriously considered. It's imperative that the expansion not be approved, even in a long-term plan at this time. First and foremost, there's no room to widen the road. The existing roadway in front of my house has 2 12-foot travel lanes and a 10-foot turn lane, then sidewalks on both sides that are about 9 feet, for a total of 52 feet of right-of-way. That slide had 60 feet, I think, so maybe I was a little bit off, but even still, we're talking not even close to the 80, much less the 110 feet. Right now, I have 30 feet left between the sidewalk and my front porch. My next door neighbors have about the same. The 2 historic homes across the street have closer to 20 feet before their front steps. If you take from both sides equally, we all end up with about 10 feet or less between our porch and a sidewalk, along a major thoroughfare that's now going to have even more traffic. When future planning boards and councils are ready to proceed with this project and realize that turn lanes are going to be needed, bike lanes are needed, we're going to have even less space. So when you go out to that full 110 feet for a typical 4-lane road with a median, the town would have to buy at least one side of the road to make that happen. So unless the town's ready tonight to commit to buying homes along this road to allow more unnecessary traffic flow through a residential area, the only reasonable decision is to remove the expansion from all plans. Aside from the unavailable space, such a major roadway does not fit the residential area. The justification for widening mentioned the already changed nature of this area, but just because bad decisions were made in the past doesn't mean more should follow. The car dealership is not consistent with the historic and well-established homes on North Salem. nor is it consistent with the neighborhoods along the road, including the long-established Haddon Hall and the newer Magnolia Walk subdivision. However, that dealership is right at the highway entrance, and additional turn lanes and traffic signals that were installed to help get traffic into the dealership minimize the impact on Salem. That's wonderful. There's no reason to invite any additional traffic down a residential road. Regarding the school, I share the frustration with the traffic it creates at arrival and dismissal, but that's a problem that can and should be resolved by the school using its own space to facilitate traffic. Even if that's not possible, we're talking about a short-lived inconvenience. School's in session for 180 days of the year, and traffic backs up for maybe a total of 1 hour each day because of that carpool traffic. It's far from a problem that warrants the destruction of residential small-town feel by creating a 4-lane median-divided highway. I'm also extremely concerned with safety. The pedestrian traffic along North Salem rivals the automobile traffic most days. People walk their dogs, kids ride their bikes, students walk home from Thales. Even with the existing configurations, distracted and oblivious drivers frequently ignore pedestrians crossing at the crosswalks. 2 more travel lanes added to an already busy intersection will only make it worse, and it's only a matter of time before someone's hit. I understand that on paper it might look smart to create additional paths for traffic coming off of highways into town, but there are many alternatives to keep local traffic where it belongs and commuters on the highways where they belong. Salem should not become a major roadway. I think I hopefully have a couple seconds left. I just want to underscore how much damage would be caused by expanding North Salem. What now is a relatively quiet, walkable, small-town Main Street will become a major commuter throughput. There are valiant efforts in progress by this council to retain the small-town charm that attracted so many of these people driving on the road. To widen it flies in the face of those efforts, and I know none of us want that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that was the last speaker tonight, so I'll close public hearing and move back to council for discussion. And do you guys want to just separate the, okay? So we'll start with the New Hill Olive Chapel Road.
Mr. Mayor, I'll go first. So I support the amendment here to modify this back to a 2-lane road. My reasons are discussed, we heard from public comment, but this area in New Hill has a rural character. I think we should preserve that. I think we should think of this area as a transition from what we're building out in Apex towards Jordan Lake. There's nature preserves out here. There's significant amount of land being preserved by Jordan Lake, and we're talking about dropping a 4-lane highway through it. I don't think that's necessary. Even if you disagree, I think the graveyard there is a deal breaker. I don't, until I see a solution to the graveyard, I think we may be setting ourselves up where we have a 4-lane highway planned here. We go to implement it someday, they look at it, and they say, well, we gotta re-intern several graves and move them over to the other side, and I don't think that'll be approved. And so I think until we have a solution or a path forward through there, I'm not sure I wouldn't support putting it here. We have Richardson Road to the east, not too far away. That can be the way to get between 64 and US 1. That's on our transportation plan. I support that project. And one final comment about the traffic, and this was touched on by a couple of the members of the public. There's sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy here when it comes to traffic. When you provide a 4-lane highway for trucks to get around, they're going to use it, and that's going to further erode the character of the region. And so for those reasons, I'm going to support reverting our change, and however you want to phrase it, support reverting it to a 2-way rural road. Thank you.
I would like to echo that I agree with Councilmember Mahaffey. I think there's a tension here between development and traffic, and also the preservation of some ruralness of Apex, as well as our historical structures, and I think that needs to be respected. So I will support going back to keeping the roadways as they are.
I can go next. I appreciate really your pushing us to look at this again. Because I think a lot of us had some issues, and some more than others were able to express at that time. And so And I wanted to thank staff for providing more information and opportunity, and I'm really glad that more of the public reached out, so I appreciate that. And some of my heartburn was because of the things that I said, being against Crossroads Ford, not as a business, it's a fine business, but in that area. And one of the things I will never forget is I said, it just, it doesn't belong in our entryway. No, no more than some odd piece belongs in our entryway of our home. It's fine, but it doesn't belong there. And so as I kept thinking about that when I left my seat, I thought about that and then thinking of, people's loved ones in their resting place. And so thinking of people who are most directly impacted in those areas and loved ones in their resting places, I agreed to returning back to the original plans.
Thank you.
Yeah, I definitely had a lot of heartburn about this one as well. It would, because we are balancing that, like you said, with the development versus the keeping the historical nature of not only Salem Street but also New Hill Olive Chapel Road. Do we, designate this area and encourage more traffic to go through it, or do we keep the historical nature of it as is, and that 2-lane highway? I drove through there on New Hill Olive Chapel Road pretty recently, and I mean, unless you move some houses, historical houses, out of the way, it is going to be so difficult, or completely do a bypass around it. So to me, getting around those houses and getting around that cemetery are going to be major issues. If some sort of solution can come up, I might consider it. But again, we're still losing that small town feel that people enjoy about Apex. Salem Street, I agree. I appreciate the pictures that were sent to let us know how close some of those lines would be to the house if we were to expand that highway. So I agree in that we are, yes, there's a lot of traffic coming off the Peakway, and there is a lot of traffic going to Thales, but at this point, I think I think the historical nature is more important. So I would support staying at a 2-lane through there.
Okay. Thank you.
I think I disagree. I'm one that can disagree with this. I've seen the projections that Shannon's shown in other maps where even 540 has been clogged up, and by 2045 or whenever it was. And we are preserving some structures by going back to the original plan, but we are inconveniencing thousands of people who will be moving to Apex and aren't even there yet. And the roads that are already a problem, I can just only imagine, unless we get like flying cars or something, it's going to be just terrible. And we're setting ourselves up for, I think, future councils being very annoyed to be like, why is this road not wider, and why are the easements not there from the developments that came later because we didn't ask for them. And I think on 1010 Road right now, we've been suffering from negative feedbacks from people saying, why'd you build this development so close to the townhomes? Why'd this so close to the road? And it's because we didn't plan very well in that case, I think. And I'm trying to avoid that here by, I think we're rightly trying to avoid that by getting these easements in place now. They may widen the roads eventually anyway, and then it'll be even more disruptive without this kind of planning. Regarding the Salem one, if we're going to do both now, I think the Gateway thing is a little bit gone. I mean, I wasn't around for the Peakway, I wasn't around for Thales, but they are not pretty Gateway type buildings. And combine that with a traffic jam that I assume is going to be for all daylight hours instead of a couple hours in the morning and the evening, is not going to be much of a gateway. It's going to be, they're going to be mad to be looking at these historic homes, but sitting in traffic for forever. And I think we're setting ourselves up for that future by not making this change. I mean, I don't know how the homeowners are going to feel when there's cars constantly in front of their driveway stopped there. Like there will be, I think, when there's 23,000 vehicles going through there a day, more than double. So current owners, and maybe future owners that aren't even there yet, are going to, I think, suffer. So that's how I feel about these two issues. And if you want to preserve the historic nature of something, you don't approve things like Woodbury and these other neighborhoods, and we've already done that. And there's a lot in the pipeline that we've, even before I even got on the council, were already approved. So I just think we're going to have a disaster on our hands in 20 years.
Mr. Mayor, if I could respond. I had a couple notes here. So I think it's important to understand we will have the easements necessary to do this in the future if we're wrong, and we do need to go to 4 lanes, the medium separated, because it was shown the right-of-way dedication required in both cases is 110 feet.
New Hill is different than Salem.
I believe they're both 110 feet, right? No?
So, the right-of-way for a 2-lane rural thoroughfare, which is what we would show for New Hill Olive Chapel Road, is the same right-of-way as a 4-lane median divided facility. That does not account for construction easements that may be needed outside of that right-of-way. The North Salem Street cross-section would be 80 feet, which is a 3-lane thoroughfare. So as projects move forward, if there are any on North Salem Street, what we would be requiring is for the 80 feet right-of-way.
Thank you. So mixed bag there. We'll have other options. It's not completely irreversible what we're talking about today. I don't doubt the traffic studies that are done showing the traffic coming. I believe it. I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm saying that New Hill Olive Chapel Road and widening this portion of Salem Street is not the solution to those problems. And it comes back to what I said earlier, Mr. Mayor, about the self-fulfilling prophecy of widening these roads and drawing traffic to them. I think we should be thinking about ways to get traffic off of North Salem. And I saw today driving in that Salem was backed up from 55 almost like halfway, probably close to Chatham Street. And that's not from people coming from downtown from having dinner and then driving home. It's people cutting through from 64 down to 55. So the traffic is there, it's a problem, it's going to increase, that's a bigger problem. If we put a 4-lane road there with the intention of drawing people towards off of 64 to the Peakway, a lot of that traffic's going to drive right through down to 55, and that is not going to be great for our downtown businesses and for the character of downtown. And I think 1010 was brought up as well, and I do think that widening 1010 is necessary, and I'd like to point out at our last, in October, we did approve, I don't know, 6 lanes or something for 1010, so that was adopted on the plan. So there's a lot of stuff we can do to mitigate the traffic that's coming. I'm not saying we shouldn't do those things, Mr. Mayor. I'm saying that we're not, bystanders in this process. When we see a traffic study showing a lot of traffic is coming to North Salem, I believe it's our role to think of ways to get that traffic off of North Salem and either onto 540, which is how they should be cutting through town, or over to 55 directly, or onto an upgraded 1010 or a US 1. So that's my opinion.
I mean, I agree with what Mr. Mahaffey is saying, and I also, as a person who has voted against a lot of developments in certain areas for certain reasons to maintain small town character, and I try to be consistent, and so there are plenty of projects that I did not approve of because it went against that. So I'm going to be consistent here. So I think people need to think about that as you vote, if you're bringing too much for the infrastructure that's in place.
I guess I just have 2 things to add. More of a question. How does this impact funding if we change what's in our in our long-range planning, like for Campo and things like that? Is that impacted by the modified?
So what will happen as Campo is working to update the Metropolitan Transportation Plan, I will need to let them know that our local plan is not consistent with the regional study recommendations. In most cases, they will honor the local wishes, which means that those future roadway widening projects would not be up for prioritization, which you know is a long process. So, you know, if there's a need for those projects, having them move forward for prioritization is important. The Campo could include them, but that's not typically what happens. Usually they go with the local desires.
Okay, thank you. And I don't disagree with you about trying to find ways to move traffic in other areas, but I'm going to put my prior public safety hat on with police. What is the other solution? I mean, how does that work? I'm just trying to understand it with experts. Like, what is, and I get it, and I know there's a lot of things involved here, a lot of things at stake, but what is the next solution? What do we do? I mean, 4 years, we're going to be right back here. I'm just, can anybody answer that?
I think we could brainstorm about ways to get traffic off of Salem and encourage people to not use it as a cut-through would be a start. And I think, as was pointed out, Crossroad Fords is there. They've improved the 300 yards or however much it is right at the north end of Salem. It's 5 lanes, 6 lanes now. It's huge. If we transition that down to 2 lanes, we put a roundabout there, we put, I don't know, my experience in North Carolina is if you charge a toll, people will avoid it like the plague. So maybe, you know, a penny to go to North Salem Street or something, that'll drop traffic down to nothing. I don't know, like there's ways to move traffic off of it. There's ways to if we thought about it and we asked our staff to research, I'm sure there's ways they can come up with methods to encourage traffic to go directly to, 55 or to 540 to do that cut through. It's the cut through traffic that bugs me the most that we should discourage. We want people to come downtown to enjoy downtown. We don't want people to come downtown just to drive through to get to Holly Springs.
I guess,
I was going to say, I mentioned, the homeowner mentioned how people are using that road when you can just get on 64. I mean, I go to Durham, I do that as well. I can just as easily go to get on 64 and make a right on 751. I do not have to go through that.
yeah. I guess I understand. So staff researches ways and they come up with nothing. Just something to think about.
I mean, I would argue, also, we got a bunch of existing roads and railroads that block a lot of this stuff, too. $25 million bridge, that's one example, like, there are a lot of obstacles, unless there's substantial changes in car technology, which I think is what I would hope happens if we, in 20 years, when they can line up like a foot from each other and just all drive, synchronously. That would be a way to increase a lot of the capacity. But minus that, unless, maybe people will stay at home when they're working all the time like they do in COVID now. Maybe that'll stick, but I have my doubts.
So question, if the vote tonight is to keep it 2-lane, would there be a possibility you come back in 4 years and say we need to move this in a different direction? Possibly?
So there's, like our local long-range transportation plan, there's a cycle for updating the Metropolitan Transportation Plan. And if our local plan changes, we would inform Campo. So yes, there's an opportunity. I think some of the drawbacks were already pointed out regarding, development that happens in the interim that we're not necessarily planning for if that's our intent. And then also just the prioritization process.
Okay. Just some things I want to put out there.
I'd also suggest not a hard stop, but a gentle stop of any development along Newville, Olive Chapel, if we're going to do this too. Because they're not going to be able, the new neighborhoods are going to be enough for cars by themselves, I think, to warrant this upgrade, not just cut through. And we need to slow that down probably.
Okay. All right, all good discussion. Any further?
Did I hear any discussion about a bypass in the New Hill area? Is that wishful thinking or is that some legitimate thoughts?
Yes, so that was the additional recommendation from the Southwest Area Study. I mentioned that we're not prepared at this point to bring forward for a public hearing, Because there is the historic district there, we've been working with Wake County and Capital Area Preservation to further vet that recommendation. But it does not change the recommendation on the floor tonight.
Any more discussion? All right, is there a motion? Let's start with the Salem Street.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I move we approve the amendment to return Salem Street to, so I'm trying to find the wording of the,
So,
3-lane.
I recommend, or I move we approve the proposed amendment to downgrade North Salem Street to a future 3-lane thoroughfare.
okay.
I second it, Stallings.
Okay. Any discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no?
No.
All right. That one passes 4-1. All right, let's move to the other one. New Hill Olive Chapel Road.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I move we approve the proposed amendment to downgrade New Hill Olive Chapel Road to an existing 2-lane rural thoroughfare.
Okay.
I second it, Stallings.
All right, motion and second. Any discussion on that? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no?
No.
All right, that passes 4-1. Thank you, everyone. All right, that moves us to work session 1, and we will be leaving this location, going to training room 3A. And if you would be there by 9:10.
Come back here to that one. My stuff.
Last time we adjourned upstairs, so I think we'll just, yeah, we'll do that. Yeah, we're fine. Thank you.
Okay, see you later. Huh? No, I'm going back to the store. We're going upstairs to.
Got the swag bag.
All right, thank you. I appreciate you being here, Brian.